Hello to all the listeners. My name is Dylan.
And I'm Dylan.
And we would like to thank you for taking the time to give us a listen. And if you do enjoy, please drop a like and subscribe for our weekly podcast, or even check out the clips that we post from each show.
You can also follow us at our Twitter on screen and then tune in each week, Wednesday night, for our weekly podcast streaming at That Dill on Twitch.
Thank you and enjoy the podcast.
Yeah, tell me about this Kyle Lowry trade because I saw only a little bit of it.
Yeah. Okay, so essentially, basically, I'm pretty sure it just came out today, at least from what I saw, because I think I got the notification earlier today that basically Kyle Lowry is serious. There's serious trade talks around Kyle Lowry being moved, and when you get closer to the deadline, there's a lot of players like this that are on their respective teams that are either looking to rebuild or looking to get rid of an expiring contract or one that's just too expensive. Kyle Lowry kind of falls into that category where he's got a little bit of the too expensive. Also, their team's kind of on the down. So it's one of those where they're about to head into a rebuild. So they're going to basically get rid of him. So they're trying to maximize value. And with a player like that who can bring immediate help to a team, but not long term because he's a little bit older already, you look at teams like, for example, I mean, it says right there the Lakers are in the mix. I've heard the Heat. I've heard the 76ers are kind of the three key teams, which makes sense because all three teams are really competing for a playoff spot and all in their respective Western and Eastern conferences. The 76ers, to me, that makes a lot of sense because the 76ers really don't have a facilitator that kind of gets the ball moving. On that offense. I know Ben Simmons does, but his assist totals as a point guard or playing the point guard position aren't as high as you'd like. The ball movement could be a little bit better, taking a little bit of pressure off of Ben Simmons from doing that, so that way he can be a little bit more effective. And that also on the bench, they have Tyler Hero, who's kind of played a little bit of the point guard role this year. He's averaging, I think, 4 or 5 assists or something like that, close to that. So he's been a pretty good facilitator off the bench, but they really just need a key, piece that can start the games for them. So Kyle Lowry makes a lot of sense there. I think he does make a lot of sense with the Lakers because I think he immediately steps in and starts. Dennis Schroeder played really well off the bench as a sixth man last year for the Thunder, so I really think that he could basically file back into that role. So I would say that you would have Kyle Lowry start, and then you'd have Schroeder back him up. But that's just me. I mean, it's the rich getting richer at that point. I mean, do they really need him? But the Lakers haven't seemed to be as good as they thought they were going to be this year. So there's a lot more competition. I mean, when playoff time comes around, the Lakers are going to be there. That's the way it's going to go because LeBron's going to be there in the end. That's just how it is. But I do think that Kyle Lowry would help them a lot because it would offer them a little bit of shooting, facilitation that they kind of need.
Do they have the assets anymore? That's my concern. Like, how do they still have firepower to also get a third star?
Yeah, that's where it's kind of iffy because if you trade first round picks, you're really not trading any value there. You're getting guys that are going to be later in the draft, which, unfortunately, it's not the same in the NBA as it is in like the NFL and stuff like that, where, later first round draft picks still matter. In the NBA, later first round draft picks, you start bordering into the more role players that you're going to get. So it's one of the, you could find a gem. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of players that have come later in the draft that have been gems. But generally, if you're not in the lottery, which is basically the top 14 picks, it's really hard to find a player that's going to be of immediate impact as well as have the potential to become a player of impact as a starter in this league. So it's one of those where ultimately at the end of the day, I don't really know what the Lakers could give. I don't know if they're talking because I can't even think of like what players they would offer because a lot of their players are pretty essential. If they're getting a point guard, maybe they feel fine with getting rid of. I mean, they keep Dennis Schroeder, I think, so they would get rid of maybe. I can't remember his name, the guy with the headband, but they might get rid of him. But then, what do you pair him with? Is it him and picks? The Lakers is an interesting one because it's really, yeah. I mean, the best trade offer them must click on that article. Actually, the best trade offer the Lakers must make for the Raptors star because I'm curious to see what they would even really offer to be like competitive along with the Sixers and the Heat. Because the Heat and the Sixers at least have like a lot of depth players as well, young players, as well as their picks are probably, I guess, would be more valuable because, well, I mean, they could probably offer more picks than the Lakers, I would assume.
Yeah,
Because the Lakers gave a lot up for the Anthony Davis trade, and so
oh
yeah,
my
I would
God, where's
be
the trade?
curious to see. Okay, so here we go. All of the shorter Montrose Harris. Yeah, but that kind of like guts their bench. So that's one of those where I'm not a huge fan of that kind of trade. I mean, if you're trying to basically build a starting lineup that will win, then go for it. But that kind of guts their bench because Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's huge off the bench. So is Montrose Harrell, and then a shorter too in this case if he was bringing in Kyle Lowry to be your starter. So I don't really know. I don't think that it's going to really work for the Lakers. They could make that trade. I don't think it'll benefit them because I think they're losing too much for a player that's not good enough to make up that type of production. But
Yeah.
I do think the Sixers and the Heat make a lot more sense. The Heat to me makes the most sense just because the Heat to me really do need a point guard to be a facilitator in that offense because they have a lot of players that like the ball in their hands, but don't have the ability really to run the point as effectively as he will. Yeah, Dragic is there, but Dragic gets injured, and he's not as reliable as he used to be as a starter in the league. Whereas Kyle Lowry still has that. So I think Kyle Lowry makes the most sense to the Heat, and that's where I think I would like to see him, just because I think that would be an intriguing team with Jimmy Butler and him, and they kind of need it. The Heat have been down as of late, not winning as many games and really kind of in a losing streak. So I think they're the ones that need it the most because the Sixers are, I think, in the top in the East. So they don't really need it as much. The Lakers, I mean, are the Lakers. They have Anthony Davis and LeBron at the end of the day. And as long as those two are healthy in the playoffs, you're fine. So I
Yeah.
think the Heat need it the most. I think that would be the most intriguing landing spot for him. I've also there's a couple other players too that I'll mention too. I think Oladipo's on the move somewhere. Victor Oladipo would be a nice pickup for a team. He's great. He's a good shooting guard that can also play defense pretty well in this league, which defenders are hard to come by. So especially in the current NBA ruling and everything. And then I literally wrote this maybe like 5 minutes ago because I saw this come across the not Newswire, but across like basically my Twitter, and it basically said that Andre Drummond, a solid landing spot for him is going to be the Knicks. Andre Drummond, for those who may not know, is kind of a lesser known star in the league because he's a center and it's not as glamorous as any other position in the league, but he does a lot well for you. He guards the rim really well. He's going to rebound exceptionally well, and he'll get you some points here and there, which is really important for a team that has some players already. And the Knicks are always kind of desperate for getting some actual genuine talent in there. They really hit a home run this year, it seems, with most likely the most improved player of the year. Oh man, I can't remember his name. Power forward. Look up the Knicks roster while I'm talking about it. But yeah,
Wait, what's up with this too, by the way, before we move on to that? Is he seeking a 2-year extension because his contract is already he's still got years left on it? Or why is he trying to like max out?
Yeah, a lot of times that happens. A lot of times if a player has 1 or 2 years left, sometimes they can extend. Julius Randle, that's who I'm trying to think of. A lot of times they can extend it by an extra year or two, tack it on. So it's not going to hit next year, but it'll hit in a year or two. So the Knicks is an intriguing spot for Andre Drummond to end up. I think it's just because they're building a really solid team over there with the way that they're going. So I think they could be fun. I don't really know if Andre Drummond immediately makes them, a much more playoff contender than they already are, or like a championship contender in any way. I don't think so. But at least it's something that it gives you another piece to the puzzle, basically, where, next free agency, maybe if you're able to make a big splash with a big free agency signing, then you're talking about a team that already has a couple young pieces in place. Julius Randle balling out this year, and then you throw Andre Drummond in the mix as your rebounder and rim protector. That really bodes well for a future as long as they can. Again, it's the Knicks, so unfortunately for Knicks fans out there, it might be all for naught, but at least it's something to look forward to.
Is there anybody else who's moving that's anything big and juicy? I checked the NBA subreddit.
Yeah, there's players that have moved recently. Trevor Ariza moved. PJ Tucker moved to teams. I think PJ Tucker went to the Bucks, which is interesting. That adds a pretty solid defender for them. You probably don't want to play the the video.
I don't think this actually would be.
No, I don't think it would be either. But either way, yeah, that's him piecing out to, which he's been a really great player for them, and probably somebody that Toronto is going to hate losing, but it's the right time for them to basically cut ties with him just because of like I said, all I said basically about him being a little bit of an older player in a team that's really starting to probably turn the corner on a rebuild. So it makes sense to lose him. It sucks for them because he's been there for quite a while. Won a championship with Kawhi 2 years ago, but I mean, at the end of the day, at some point, sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's better for the player and the organization to move on, and in this case, that kind of works out that way.
Yeah, wow, that was only 2 years ago. That's why he's still got. I mean, he's not old.
I mean, he's
Ish.
32.
Okay.
But the issue is for a point guard being that old, your athleticism kind of goes. So you have to really be a much smarter facilitator, as well as your shooting really has to come in. Kind of, it reminds me of kind of like Jason Kidd, why Jason Kidd was still able to be relevant later on in his career, because he kind of wasn't obviously as athletically gifted as he was earlier in his career, but he was able to become a rebounder, a facilitator, and a good 3-point shot. And so that's what, he made himself useful. And so that's really what Kyle Lowry's got to do. But right now, Kyle Lowry will immediately help a team. So I think going to the Heat is probably the best case for him, or best situation and best fit, in my opinion.
And how long is it basically supposed to be that the Lakers are going to be they have 9 seeds for the playoffs? They're expecting them to low seed.
I mean, the Lakers are. I think it guts the Lakers bench too much. I don't think that's a good trade for them to make. If they go ahead and do it, I would be intrigued still to see how it'll play out. I just don't think it'll be as worthwhile as they might think, just because, like I said, I don't think it helps them as much as it's going to gut their bench. And then the Sixers, it makes sense a lot, but I think it just makes little more sense for the Heat to get them.
Anything else juicy going on? NBA
No, I think
stuff?
that's really it. The only thing I wanted to point out is that the Suns are a really legit team in the Western Conference. I mean, I know the Nuggets are rolling. I know the Lakers are going to be there in the end, but the Suns have really been playing well ever since they got Chris Paul. He's fit in perfectly there because they really did need like a veteran leadership / point guard to come in and play and facilitate the ball around with that team because of how good they are and how talented they are. They just needed somebody to spread the love, basically. And so getting Chris Paul in there was clutch and really has been huge for that team. So they're a really intriguing team, and I think they really have kind of established themselves as a legit contender because they have more of DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker, obviously, are their 2 super talented players, and then they got Chris Paul. So you kind of have like a mini big 3 there, but you also have a lot of depth on that team with Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder. I've always liked. You see Jalen Smith right there. So there's a lot to like about the team, and I think they've really kind of shown themselves as legit contenders as of late. And so
I guess since we're still on the topic of basketball,
you want to head over to March Madness?
Yeah, I think we could do that.
All right, let's
we're
show
still on
my
basketball topic.
Let's show my incredibly abysmal bracket at this point. A little bit. Okay, so obviously Gonzaga blowing out Norfolk. Nobody's surprised. I wasn't surprised because I had Gonzaga going to the to the Elite Eight, or Sweet 16, I should say, which they are. I thought Mizzou was going to upset Oklahoma. I was obviously wrong on that one. I also thought UVA was going to be there instead of Ohio. UVA let me. I should really stop. I really need to stop betting on UVA. I don't know what it is. They let me down every year. I try so hard to pick them, and then they shoot me right in the heart. It started a couple years ago when they lost to that 16 seed, and I had picked them to win the championship. It just from that each tournament before that and each tournament after that, I keep trying to pick them and I keep being wrong, and I just need to remember that for next year so that way I can pick against them. Which again, if they do get in the tournament, I guarantee they're going to win next year because I said that. But here we are. So Ohio, surprising win right there for them. Nobody surprised USC won against Drake. Kansas, nobody surprised winning that one either. So Oregon, that was a no contest. I thankfully had picked Oregon, so that worked out. I almost thought about VCU because VCU is always in it, but I thought Oregon was this
the really screwy game where they tested positive for COVID, but too late for any other teams to fill in?
Yeah, something like that. So it was like, all right, that's it. We just got to call it. And I think Oregon was the better team in the end. So maybe, I don't know if that helps anybody feel better about it, but I don't think it does. But I mean, in my opinion, but obviously you can see my opinion's not great in this category. But Iowa winning against GCU, not surprising. What is surprising is Iowa getting blown out by freaking Oregon. I told you Oregon was good just a couple seconds ago. Yeah, so them getting Oregon blowing them out was not fun to watch, and I was just like, all right, well, there's another team that goes down in my bracket. Had them going all the way to the Elite Eight. Shouldn't have had it. All right, go to the bottom section. I think this is a little bit better. Oh, that one game was just dead in the water. Okay, so that's School of North won. No surprise there. I think they're probably now one of the best two teams available besides Gonzaga. LSU won, which I had picked. I just thought LSU was going to win. I feel like they're a more talented team than Bona, but then I go to Colorado, blowing out Georgetown. I thought Georgetown was going to ride the coattails of the Big East championship win, and I thought they were going to ride into March Madness with that like magic energy from winning that and going to there. And they got Patrick Ewing celebrating as the head coach, and everything's great. And then they just get blown. It's not
Wait,
even
what?
a
He's the head
game.
coach?
Yeah. Patrick Ewing's the head coach at Georgetown.
Oh, okay. Nope, didn't know that.
Yeah, and they did really well this year. They won the Big East. Like that's why they're in the tournament, is because they won the Big East championship. It's just they laid an egg against Colorado. I think they blew their load basically in the Big East championship because they did absolutely nothing against Colorado to inspire any confidence.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the only reason I got some of my picks right, like a 2 for 15, I got to look at actually what it was, but you were like, oh, like a 12 always upsets a 5. And I was like, okay. And I picked one of those. I don't remember which one it was, but I'll look it up.
Yep. It's always a 12 upsets a 5. And that was my 12. And it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Florida State, though. Florida State's a really sneaky, talented team. They always have a really just overall talented team. Also, their point guard is like 6'9" or something like that. So, like, when they go like small ball, they're like, their small ball lineup is like point guard 6'9", shooting guard like 6'6", small forward like 6'8". Like, it's just like, it's not really small.
Yeah, that's not small.
No, I mean, it's called small ball because you put your small forward at power forward and then you put a stretch four at center, and that's really making it small ball basically. But yeah, it's just, I mean, like all of their guys are tall, so it's really kind of weird, but it does create a lot of matchup issues. So I tell you what, that game is going to be fun to watch. That School North with the Florida State. That's going to be a fun game because Florida State is really talented, and I know that School North is better. But Florida State's really talented, and anything can happen, as you can see in this friggin' bracket. So,
Salty.
and then you go down. Yeah, then we just scroll down. I thought BYU. See, and the funny part is I dissed Gonzaga, and I thought Gonzaga wasn't going to win the championship because I thought they weren't going to be. I thought they weren't as good, and I thought they weren't as good because I thought like one of their better wins was against BYU all year, and then I was like, BYU. Pretty good. I shouldn't have picked them. I don't know why. I literally argued against myself. I said BYU wasn't that good, and that's why Gonzaga beat them all year. And then in the the game, their bracket or their tournament, whatever it's called, and they laid an egg again against UCLA, and I should have known. I should just. I don't know why I don't like. I do this. I like question myself, and I like make a good point, and then I just don't follow up the good point, and then bam, here we go. So. Texas getting blown out, that's just I don't know, or not getting blown out, but getting beat. I don't know what to tell you, Texas. Get your shit
Damn,
straight.
I didn't get to see that game. I didn't know it was that close.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is the head coach of Texas is Shaka Smart, who came over from VCU, and VCU has been very dominant in like the couple of years that Shaka Smart was the coach, and then he went over to Texas, and people are super excited about it, and he's been in the tournament like 2 or 3 times since his coaching there for the last 4 or 5 years, and he's just never done anything. They just get your shit straight, Texas. I don't know what to tell you. Like, just figure it out. I don't know how you're a 3 seed getting beat by 1 point to a 14 seed. So I figure it out. You're finally good enough to be considered in that top 3 seed echelon, and then you screwed the pooch. So
does that affect their seeding like for the next years if they keep choking?
Yeah, I mean that's literally if they keep choking like this, I don't know. Like I like Shaka Smart. I thought he was a great coach. I thought it was an interesting. I thought it was interesting that he left VCU. I don't know why he like. I know why he left VCU because it's Texas and it's just a bigger school, more money, all that stuff. But VCU, he was actually winning in the tournament, and then he goes to Texas and he's not. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know if he
Yeah.
was just getting his guys in at VCU and he just had a good team for a couple years. I don't know, but moving on downs, UConn. UConn let me down. I told my girlfriend Alyssa that Maryland was gonna beat UConn. I told her that that was like an upset that I really thought could happen, and then I picked UConn because again I don't know why I just make good points to my like to other people and then I just don't follow up on them.
You can convince
So
everyone except for yourself.
I literally it's like I'm like the worst kind of person that like has a good point but then doesn't follow it. And it's like one of those where it's like if you don't I like what is it? Like you don't buy what you're selling. Yeah, you know, I don't buy what I'm selling apparently, but what I'm selling is better than what I'm buying. So I don't know. I'm the idiot basically is what's happened.
Yeah.
So
And then
um
Bama.
yeah, Bama won. I mean, Bama's good. So they're better than I thought. I mean, they're winning. I mean, 96 to 77 is pretty surprising. So
Yeah.
yeah, then we head
Oh,
over to the top part over here where there's more. I think this is a lot. I have some success. There's just some disappointments where I just go, why? Like for example, Baylor winning. That makes a total sense. Of course, Baylor was going to win that game. Then you go to UNC, and I go, well, it's North Carolina. And I've heard Wisconsin's not that good of a team this year. I didn't watch them. Probably my fault. And I've heard North Carolina. I've heard that Wisconsin's not a spectacular team this year. And then I always feel comfortable with North Carolina because of Roy Williams. So then I'm like, all right, I'll just go with North Carolina because I don't know out of the two, but I've heard Wisconsin's not good, and I always trust the coach. And so then I go with you, North Carolina, and then Wisconsin blows them out. And then yeah, Wisconsin lost to Baylor, but I mean, it wasn't a bad loss. It was actually they played very well. So you know, whatever, I guess. But yeah, then you go down Nova when you know Villanova winning. I mean, that's not surprising. Villanova's Villanova. They're always going to be there. They always end up. They always end up pretty far because they're always a well coached team. Purdue getting upset. North Texas. I don't know what to tell you. Purdue, be better. I don't know what to tell you. It's North Texas. Like what? Like anyways.
do they
So
have basketball there?
they do apparently, and apparently they're better than Purdue. So all right, moving on to Texas Tech University. We'll scroll down. Texas Tech or one. You know, I always like Texas Tech to win. Um, Further into the tournament than people think. And that's just kind of how I usually vote for them. Arkansas, I really was not a believer at all, which is funny because again, my girlfriend has Arkansas in the Final Four, so she's by the way winning my family
Really?
bracket hardcore.
Really?
She has Houston and Arkansas in the Final Four, and two of my Final Four teams are gone, as you can see. So she's killing it. She's like the
Why'd
only
she
one
like
that's left
Arkansas
alive.
so much?
I don't know. She just she did some research into like each team and like what she thought about them and everything like that. And she thought that Arkansas and Houston were playing well this year, so she picked them. And both of them pulled out wins. So, you know,
Wow.
who's the idiot here? Still this guy. Um
Who would
yes.
win? One guy who does sports analysis all the time every day, or someone who
Uh,
does their DD like right before making a bracket?
yeah, but that's how it goes. I mean, that's how March Madness goes. That's why March Madness is so intriguing to watch and so much fun to be a part of if you're just a casual fan because crap like that happens where you just go like I'm very confident in Ohio State and Illinois. I've watched them this year dominate, and then what do? Both of them just decide to not play basketball, and yeah, so then you just get bad games.
Right.
So yeah, so I mean, listen, I'm not going to take anything away from Oral Roberts. They are killing it. That is a team where I watch them and like normally when you watch a basketball game and all basketball fans out there will get it. When you watch a basketball game, typically you can just tell there's a team that is like desperately trying to score the next bucket because they know the other team is going to score and so they have to just keep up pace. Oral
Yeah.
Roberts feels like the team for some reason that's in charge and is like the one that's like forcing the other team to like make a bucket to keep up.
Yeah.
And it's shocking. So they're playing really well. Honestly, I hope Oral Roberts continues going. Not because I just said that my girlfriend has Arkansas and I hope that they potentially lose, but also because I think it just would be fun to see a Cinderella team
We
like
could
Oral
have had
Roberts.
We could have had Oral Roberts versus Colgate, but
Oh my god,
Wasn't meant
don't
to
get me
be.
started on the memes. That would have been incredible. I wouldn't even cared who won. I Nobody would have cared. Everybody would have been happy either way.
Mhm.
So, anyways, yeah, so then obviously the big one, Florida won, great. I knew they were going to. And then Ohio State was my team that I really thought should have been a 1 seed because I thought they were a 1 seed that basically just wasn't a 1 seed because they lost to Illinois in the Big Ten championship, and that's why. And they lost by like 2 points in overtime, so I was like, "Oh, Illinois is the best team in the nation." And then guess what? The team that lost by 2 points in overtime, probably the second best team in the nation. So I'm thinking Ohio State's that good. And then I'm also thinking wouldn't it be great to watch them rematch in the Final Four? It'd be fantastic. It'd be great TV.
Yeah.
Instead, now we get Ohio State just I don't see, and this is the sad part too, is this as an Ohio State fan, I just have to know that as much as I support the football team and I support the basketball team, I just have to know that the football team is going to surprise me more often than not, and the basketball team is going to let me down more often than not. That's just the way it goes. Even when Ohio State back in the day had Jared Solinger and Evan Turner and all these great players, and we just went far, but not far enough because we always underperformed. It was just that's Ohio State's entire thing. My favorite was I saw that meme with Winnie the Pooh where it shows him like just dressed normally and then him dressed in like a dapper suit, and it was like Ohio State, and it was him like dressed normally, and then it was like Ohio University, and it was him all dappered up, and I was like, I freaking hate that. I hate that Ohio is actually better than Ohio State at some point in something.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but
awesome.
yeah, I saw it and I was like, I listen, it's hilarious, but it also hurts me deep down in my soul because at this point, it's true. At this moment. All right, scroll down to my disappointing champion that me down, let everybody down. They did so well against Drexel. They played to their potential. They played like they're supposed to play, and then they went to Loyola Chicago. And Loyola Chicago is always a well coached. They may not be the most talented team in the conference or in the thing, and they're not. They're definitely not the most talented team. But guess what? They have a lot of guys who make shots when it counts and know how to play defense. And they all are coached very well, making very few mistakes. And Illinois, to me, this entire game just looked not coached well. Like they all just looked confused. Like nothing was running smoothly. All of them seemed like kind of sluggish, and I don't even know why that was the case. Because I mean, they destroyed Drexel, so it's not like you're coming off of a hard fought victory. So I don't know. I think I don't want to say a coaching issue. I don't want to blame it all on the coach because it also the players play a part in that. But yeah, I don't. They just dropped the ball. They just completely is. They didn't play defense well. They made too many mistakes. They didn't play to their potential. They didn't run the offense as smoothly as they had all season long, and it killed them when they played a team that doesn't make mistakes and will play you, tooth and nail. So, but
Yeah,
I mean, good for Loyola Chicago. I'm disappointed, and I hope that they lose the next game so that way they don't get to go any further because they beat my champion. But if they do go further, I'm not going to be that upset because they're an 8 seed and a good story, so that's fine. But
dude, CBS was absolutely creaming their pants once Loyola won.
oh,
They were like,
100%.
Sister Jean lives another day. Hell yeah.
Oh
They
yeah,
were
it's
so
everybody.
happy.
It's every like writer's dream
Oh yeah.
because they're just like the team because of the last 2 years. They're like the team that because every 2 to 3 years, there's always the team that they jump on. It was Wichita State for like 2 3 years. It was UConn for 2 3 years when UConn was kind of down. I mean, they were a 9 seed when they won the championship, or 7 seed. I think they were 7 seed when they won the championship. It was you had who else? It was VCU for a couple of years when Shaka Smart was there. Loyola Chicago as of recently. It's like those teams where the media just absolutely loves them and wants them to continue going like as far as they can because it's stories that write themselves and headlines that write themselves. And that's just how it is with them. So like I said, at the end of the day, Illinois just played like crap, and they got beat by a team that played way better than them on that day. Might not have been the more talented team because I think Illinois was way more talented. But guess what? In the end, coaching and running your offense smoothly and running your defense smoothly and actually, being making few mistakes and being a team wins in the end. In this case. So
Yeah, I don't understand what happened with like the guy. It was a Cameron Crutwig or whatever, but, like on top of like Kofi. I thought that
mhm.
that was a I don't know, not obviously knowing exactly what was going on there, but he didn't
Yeah, I
look
don't.
like a super athlete, put it that way.
No, they like I said, they all looked sluggish, which was weird. Like it was odd that they all looked like it looked like normally when a team looks sluggish in the second round, it's because in the first round they had this like
Like
they had
that.
this they had this major upset. That's usually how it goes. Oh God,
Yeah.
Dylan. Um Usually a team that makes a major upset in the first round and plays their heart out in the first round end up losing in the second round because they just don't have the energy. That's
Yeah.
how Illinois felt. Like it felt like Illinois had just won like an excruciating game in the first round and then came the second round and just didn't have the energy to compete. And like it's obviously it wasn't the case. Maybe they shouldn't have scored 78 points, I guess. Maybe they should have cut it off at 60 and said, let's take a nap instead. I don't know. It didn't play well. That's the end of the story there.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, anyways, moving down the bracket to finish it off, we got Tennessee winning, or not Tennessee winning. I'm sorry, Oregon State upsetting Tennessee. That
This
was
is
the
the
big
one I
one.
got right.
That's your 12-5. Yep, there it is. Every year, 12-5.
I was
Um,
happy for that.
yep. That's listen. I like I said, I always told you, and Oregon State has been playing well. And you know what's funny about Oregon State is at the beginning of the year, Oregon State was picked to be the worst team in their conference this
Wow.
year, and then they ended up going to the tournament and upsetting a team, and are really killing it. I mean, they upset another team, which I'll talk about in a second. But Oklahoma State, who had Cade Cunningham, who was the best player in the country, a point guard at 6'8", who's athletic and can hit shots, is a freaking going to be a superstar in the league, and he was the best player. And I thought Oklahoma State, I thought he would ride. I thought Oklahoma State would ride that like Cade Cunningham's the best player until they went up against. I think I had Illinois up top. Um, Now you get Oregon State versus Loyola Chicago, the matchup everybody didn't think that they were going to have.
Yeah.
So,
That's
but
on Saturday? Awesome.
yeah, I'll be watching that for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And then you move down the list, Syracuse. I always have faith in Syracuse in the tournament. Syracuse is one of those teams that no matter what, I don't care what rank they are, I always at least pick them to win the first game. And I'm always confident in Jim Boeheim. He always like his teams always look like a team. They always play like a team and play up to their talent and play up to the moment. And so I always expect Syracuse to win the first game. So that's why I picked them. I didn't pick them to upset West Virginia. That was kind of a shock. I didn't think they were that good. I'm glad they are because I believe in Syracuse every year. So shout out to them. It's awesome for them being there. And again, Jim Boeheim's just a legendary coach, so it's not surprising. Then you go down the list and you have Rutgers upsetting Clemson. I really thought Clemson was going to pull it out. I should have I don't know. That was kind of a toss up for me. I really had no, what way or another. 7-10 is kind of a hard matchup to get caught up in because, 10 being Rutgers. Rutgers was playing in the same conference as Ohio State, the school up north, and Illinois, who are all top three, 2 1 seeds and a 2 seed. So maybe Rutgers looked like they were playing down this year. So they ended up with the 10 seed when in reality they were just a much better team. Maybe they were like a 6 or a 5 seed. It's just that they've been playing ridiculous competition all year. So that's one of those where you have to kind of look out for teams like that. And then Houston ends up winning against Cleveland State. And then Houston pulls out the win over Rutgers, which was a crazy game because I believe they went on a 14-2 run in the final like 2 minutes of the game. Houston did to win it. So it was
Yeah.
wild. They just kept getting shots. They look like a team that's very dangerous because they played like teams that face adversity like that and rise to the occasion and succeed in that occasion are really dangerous in the tournament because there's like something going on there. So I really kind of expect Houston to continue on and beat Syracuse here. I think Syracuse will put up a good fight, but I really think Houston is a legit team. Now I might be eating those words next week, but I'm because I just talked about Syracuse and how I always believe in them, but I just something about Houston and just the way that they won always gives me that like little bit of like I think they're gonna go far, kind of thing. So at least to the Elite Eight, but we'll see. So and then that's basically the gist of my bracket. It's in shambles because my champion's gone. Yeah, it's not looking spectacular for me. I mean, yeah, I'm in the 86th percentile because I got a couple upsets here and there, right? But I mean, there was a lot of upsets this year, a lot more than previous years.
Yeah. I mean, gotta be because of, COVID stuff,
Mhm,
right? At least a
mhm.
part of it.
Well, I think part of it's that, and I think part of it's the fact that you didn't really get to see like because of COVID and everything like that. And I don't think certain teams could play other teams, and they had to build the schedules to where they didn't have to play too many games out of conference, if any, if I remember correctly. So that also plays a factor into it because you're not playing competition from other conferences, and so it's almost like you're just beating each other up until you get to the tournament. So it's that plays a factor into it because you really don't, like I said, with Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers being a 10 seed, upsetting Clemson, maybe Rutgers was just a better team. Like I said, it's just that they were in a conference with that school up north, Ohio State and Illinois. It's just that's the way that sometimes it plays out. And in this year in particular, where we aren't able to see them go against other talent in the country, Rutgers ends up being a 10 seed and should have probably been ranked higher. And you see that win the game against Clemson.
Yeah, as that casual person, it's been fun to watch because almost every day it was pretty much like, oh boy, let's watch this upset and see what happens.
Yep,
I like
yep.
that.
It's been a lot of fun to watch. As much as I like winning, I also enjoy watching good games, and there's been a lot of them this year. So at the end of the day, I can really not be upset about some of the upsets that have happened suited to there, because of the overall just excitement and entertainment that I'm getting from the whole tournament.
Yeah. Did you pretty much watch almost every game?
Yeah, I tried to as much as possible. I tried to I would flip over from one to the other. It was almost for the first round in first and second round, especially the first round. It was a lot of I'm watching the last 6 minutes of this game, then this next game has 6 minutes left, so then I watch that last 6 minutes, and then it just it's a continuous stream all the way through.
Yeah. It's kind of
So
fun. I feel it's kind of fun to feel a part of something with sports being live.
oh, yeah, 100%, 100%, and especially being a part of, like I said earlier in the last podcast, being a part of a bracket where you can compete with your friends and stuff like that, but you don't have to be in the same room or in close contact, and you can kind of talk about it and you communicate about what's happening and all these upsets and everything, and be a part of that news streamline that's coming through Twitter and everything, and just a part of the immediate excitement when an upset happens. It's a lot of fun. And honestly, from a viewer experience, I know obviously a player experience it's going to be a lot different, but from a viewer experience of the tournament, it doesn't feel that much different without fans. Yeah, there's not the crowd noise, but it really didn't feel that different. Like the
Yeah.
moments in the games at the end of the games didn't feel different than they used to.
Yeah, I didn't really think they did either. They either did like a really good job of basically like filtering in like the players and like the minimal amount of crowd to make it seem like there were more people there, and it still was able to kind of emulate that. I felt like with the NBA finals and like the bubble and stuff, like it was such a small room and it wasn't actually in actually in a like what am I thinking of? In a
Like a stadium.
yeah, in like a stadium or anything. You could clearly tell they're basically playing in like a closet. It made it
Yeah.
seem so much smaller and seem so weird, like and just
Yep.
fake kind of feeling. Like
Well, I mean, it was a
and then like weird like 1984 TVs in the background with the fake fans. Like
yeah, that killed me.
that was a mistake. They tried to do something and it fell on deaf ears. So I think yeah, just going with what they did with March Madness felt a lot more natural and not like creepy.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. And also, before we move on, I want to reiterate out there, just so this video's out there. If anybody actually tries to contact a college basketball player and berate them for losing because you're too stupid to realize that it's a college basketball game, then don't be a part of sports or anything meaningful because
Yeah.
it is ridiculous. Players are receiving death threats over a freaking college basketball game that, in the grand scheme of things, is literally just entertainment for you at this point.
Yeah, that's insane.
I
I've
saw that
seen
and I
that stuff
just,
with like I think it was with Kofi as
yeah, and
well.
they also did it with that kid from Ohio State too. That's just don't. It's there's no place for it in college sports. Pro sports, there's really not even that much of a place for it, despite the fact that yes, it's pro sports and it's a little different. They're grown men, but I mean, these are literally 19, 20-year-old kids that you're gonna like give death threats to and just harass over social media. It's ridiculous. You're a coward for doing it over social media and direct messaging and everything like that. And you're ultimately a small, very tiny human being that does not deserve to be a part of something as fun as this is.
Yeah, I don't even understand, like, what is the response they're even looking for?
It's
That,
just
like,
them
to make them
expressing
feel
their
good?
anger in a childish way by lashing out against somebody who ultimately, at the end of the day, did not play a factor in you betting money on a team and losing that money or whatever it may be. So,
Yeah,
just
that's
wanted to get that out there. That's a message that I feel like both of us probably support.
yeah, definitely. It's hilariously incompetent in what you're trying to
Yeah,
do.
it's sad. It really is. And it's like it's like what kid wants to like after that's even like in the NFL when a kicker misses something. Like when I watched, I know it's hard to bring it up, but when I watched the double doink like live, I didn't immediately think, "Wow, I need to go to my phone to tell Cody Parkey he's a piece of crap." Like I just went, like that sucks. It's unfortunate, but like nobody in their right mind should be trying to verbally harass, over internet, whatever it may be, these kids that literally are playing for your entertainment at this point in a tournament that ultimately at the end of the day does not mean anything because whoever wins, yes, that's great. And I'm sure it's a huge honor for those kids and it's a huge honor for the university. But for you sitting at home, it does not mean anything to you in a meaningful enough way that you should give death threats to that person for not performing up to your standards.
Yeah, and even better, like, since you brought up the Cody Parkey example, is like you can even see a guy in real time, if you're at the game and actually get to experience that, and then see the guy be like, "We should go and kill him and go
Yeah,
drag him out," and I go, "Oh, okay, this guy's insane."
yeah, and it's ridiculous. It's so bad. I mean, the internet can be a great place, but it can also be a super toxic place, and anybody that's a part of the internet knows that. It's just unfortunate because it's literally 19, 18-year-old kids sometimes that are literally just trying to put everything out there on the floor, and they didn't have a good game, and unfortunately, in a tournament where it's one and done, you don't have a good game, you don't get to have a retry, and that's just the way it goes. So, and these kids can't obviously, these kids would take it back if they could. It's just sad to see human beings actually verbally assaulting or harassing over the internet these kids that do not deserve it.
Yeah, yeah,
So, okay, that was a little bit more of a serious ending, but I just saw that and I just annoyed the crap out of me because I'm like, that's what's wrong with sports at times. But
yeah. We need a timeout. We need a timeout filter for people. Take a
yeah,
day, come back to it, then you get to talk
yeah,
about it.
relax. There should be a feature that goes, "Hey, buddy, maybe you shouldn't be like instant messaging that person."
You just have to like snooze everyone's Twitter for 24 hours post a game, just like have
Yeah,
a freeze
exactly.
on it. Could you
100%.
imagine? That would never. Oh my god, that would never work for anything.
Freedom of speech issues there. Oh god.
Yeah, like any
But
reactionary news, just like take 24 hours off.
for anybody that's out there that's curious, I am drinking Two Brothers Wizard Staff. It's an IPA. I'm breaking into the IPA world, so I'm really kind of trying all kinds of different IPAs. I've really kind of crossed into that. Like, I actually enjoy the taste of IPAs, and so now I'm experimenting, drinking a few of them. I realized that I do think that I enjoy the hazy IPAs or the class of IPAs that usually are hazy, is what they're called. They're like have a fruit kind of undertone to it. I generally like those more so, and I've always been that kind of way. I've always been like a fan of like Blue Moons and things like that. So I have been breaking into it, and this is one that I saw, and I'm like, at this point, I'm also like, I enjoy the hazies more, but I'm kind of just breaking into the whole IPA world. So I'm really just trying anything that I see that might be good or might be bad. And this one's not too bad. It's kind of lighter as far as an APA goes. I don't even know what the percentage is. I'd have to really look. I can't remember, but 5%. So it's really low, but for an IPA at least. But I have had a couple different IPAs that have been a little bit thicker. I've had one that was like 10% or something like that, 12%, which are getting really like kind of on the thicker end, but it was good, still enjoyable. I am not one of those snobs that now is suddenly, oh, I drink IPAs and I'm like, can't have a Bud Light. That's just terrible. That's water. Like, no, still, there's a time and a place. still 100% for that. Definitely a time and a place. But I just enjoy these at the moment. And they're kind of nice for like sipping beers, is what I've kind of realized is like as I'm, getting into the like trying more IPAs, I'm really kind of realizing that they're more of like a sipping beer. And so I'm kind of enjoying that aspect because I actually enjoy the taste. And so it's almost like instead of drinking beer to drink beer, now it's like drinking a drink that I like. So that's a little bit different for me. Also, drinking it out of my ridiculous mug here, which is, I don't even know if you can call this a mug. I can't even think of the term for it, but it's probably something different than a mug. But essentially, I think I loaded this up and it actually holds about 3 beers, can wise. So not like 12 ounces. So it holds about 36 ounces, which has been really nice. And it keeps it pretty relatively cold, I would say. I think it's because it's glass, it keeps it cold. And then also because there's 3 beers, it's harder to warm that up over time. And I also have the air going on in my room too, which helps. But yeah, so that's a little bit of a beer experience with me. Um, I've also been trying different alcohols. I'm also a big wine drinker too. I don't like white wine. I haven't broken into it yet. I don't know if it's just like a taste aversion thing or something that I can't get over yet, but I do love red wines. I love Cabernet the most, I think. Any Cabernet really. But I'm kind of open to any of them. Syrah, red mixes, red blends. Um, Merlots, I think, are a little too sweet for me. I like a more of a drier type red wine. So that's just me. And I've been kind of trying different brands, experimenting. I've found that kind of odd enough with red wines, it seems like if you buy like the bottom shelf, which is like the cheapest one, those are generally pretty decent. And then if you buy like the middle shelf ones aren't usually as good as you think. It's like there's like a weird drop off where the top shelf is really good, the middle shelf is and then like the bottom shelf is like actually serviceable good red wine to have that's not expensive. So that's been something too. Breaking into the IPA world, if anybody has recommendations, that would be fantastic. But it's been, like I said, it's been enjoyable so far. I like them. There's a couple that I haven't liked, but overall, I think I'm really starting to enjoy IPAs more and more. So,
All right, what do you want to
uh,
start out with? Probably
kick
don't.
off.
Probably the bigger deals. Not obviously. We already did a review of basically the big ones for every team, but the splash deals.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want to run through like some free agency that you saw?
Well, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I don't think we should go through every team again. That might be excessive, but if there's ones you could think of.
So we're gonna kind of run through free agency and see if there's any changes from last week that are kind of bigger names. Bills, not so much. Obviously, Mitch Trubisky signing with them was huge because he's not coming back to the Bears. He's going back to the Bills, and it's kind of a reset on his career. He gets a 1-year deal where he can go to there, be a backup, learn a little bit, develop a little bit, and then break into the free agency market again next year for a team. So that makes sense
Whoever
for
his
him.
agent is, super smart.
Oh
Super
yeah,
smart deal.
100%.
I was a huge fan of that.
Yep,
Still am.
100%.
Because he
So
gets
all
it,
right.
that he literally like this. They were talking about this like when they were going over this
Oh,
when
go
I was
ahead.
just listening on the radio. But basically, the fact of like go to a team that has like an awesome offense, that has like a good set of coaches and people who are actually going to develop you correctly, with the bonus fact of the fact that basically Mitch Trubisky should have become a Josh Allen type of player, and he's basically going to get to go there and learn literally from Josh Allen, hopefully, and maybe the coaches and everything,
Yeah,
to try and
it's a
emulate
perfect
him.
signing.
Yeah, and he gets to splash into the free agency next year when hopefully the cap is reset back to normal. And he's going to have that allure of like, even if he doesn't get to play, which would probably be the best case scenario, teams get to go and be like, hey, like maybe, he's had a year, maybe he worked things out and he's ready to get like a low end starter contract, like the Mike Glennon type of thing. And he's
Well,
going to
and
be able
you
to make
always
bank.
well, and the thing too in the NFL too that people don't understand is that if you're a quarterback that's drafted high in the first round, you're always going to get a second shot. That's just the
Yeah.
way it is. I mean, Josh Rosen had a shot with the Cardinals, didn't work. Went to the got his shot at the Dolphins, that didn't work either. You could talk about circumstances, but that's just one of the examples that I can give. So with him being a second overall pick, there's going to be a team that's going to go, "Hey, he was a second overall pick for a reason. We think we can make him into the quarterback that he should be. Let's take a shot on him." And that's what's going to happen next year. So this is a great contract for him.
Yeah. And how interesting is it that the GM literally said we don't expect him to be back next year? we just like hope that he has a good tenure here. I
Oh,
thought that
it's
was
because
really interesting.
they know he's like, if he's a backup, like if he was to be a backup for the rest of his career, he's one of the better backups, if not the best backup in the entire NFL potentially. So having him as a backup there, I mean, yeah, you'd be happy to have him for a 1-year contract, because especially because they're a team that went all the way to the AFC Championship last year, and then now can go potentially again, if not Super Bowl hopes this year. So
Yeah,
it's a great signing.
yeah, it's awesome.
So
Emmanuel
moving
Sanders
on.
too.
Well, we talked about him last time. Yeah, it's a great signing. Like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of John Brown. I never was. I never thought he was a good number 2 receiver, because he kind of liked to quit on routes and didn't run hard. And I want a receiver that's going to come in and actually play and run the routes correctly and run them well and be a deep threat. That's more of a consistent deep threat than John Brown was. So Emmanuel Sanders fits that perfectly. I think he's an upgrade at the second wide receiver position. I really like the signing.
Yeah,
All right, moving down.
the
Big one that
Dolphins.
changed here. Go ahead.
No, yeah, the Dolphins. Jacoby.
Yeah.
I think he was. I think this is the newer one, right?
Well, yeah, Jacoby being there, I think we kind of talked about Isaiah Wilson getting released. There's a whole thing you could go and really read about Isaiah Wilson. He just got indicted actually on a charge for, I think it was a police chase that happened in January.
Yeah.
He just got charged with that. So I don't know what's happening with him. I mean, at the end of the day, I hope that he gets himself right and comes back to the NFL and plays and is successful. I always will wish that upon people. I don't want to see them, continue to tumble down, but I don't know what it's going to take for him to do that. So, I wish him the best. Hopefully he figures it out. But Will Fuller, moving on to the next signing right there, is the big kind of signing here. He gets a 1-year deal, kind of a tryout, see how he does here from Miami. He was a little inconsistent with the Texans. He's a great wide receiver that has he's super fast, great deep threat receiver. He just had a lot of issues with being consistent dropping the ball. So if he can kind of fix that this year, or kind of reset his potential, or reset his overall image as far as being a receiver who drops balls, instead being a receiver who's reliable and fast, he could potentially be in for a massive payday next year. So this is a great signing for him, especially going to a team that was up and coming last year and should look to improve this year too. And hopefully to with the reins of the franchise for the entire year, is able to actually get that growth that he needs to become the quarterback that I think he can be. So that's the big signing there that changed. All right, Patriots. I don't think they really any big signings. There was a couple interesting ones. So,
James White back.
James White coming back is huge. That'll really help. Cam Newton gives another wide receiver thrown out of the backfield. Again, the Patriots are doing perfectly what they need to do to build around Cam Newton and around a
God
potential
damn! Look
quarterback.
at this list. Look at how long that
Yeah,
is.
yeah, but it's great signings. I mean, like Nelson Aguilar, yeah, paying him ridiculous amount of money for him as well as for Kendrick Bourne. It seems kind of high, but they're both speed guys. They're both speed receivers who are smaller, who will make those short in routes, short slants, things like that, which will give Cam Newton the best potential to reach his potential, at least, because he doesn't have the arm like he used to. So having him have fast receivers that will get open quick on short routes is great for him. Then give him 2 massive, super talented tight ends for the future is spectacular. Both are young, because those also give you all of these signings also give you a lot of help for a rookie quarterback too. If a rookie quarterback does come in and they bring one in this year too, so either way, it sets them up really well. Trent Brown's a huge improvement to the offensive line. They needed a right tackle. They get it. David Andrews, re-signing him on a 4-year deal. He's been super, super consistent, super good there. So that's great for them. Then they get Ted Karras as a great backup. They bring him back. He actually came over from the Dolphins.
Why is David Andrews so cheap
I think
if he's
he's
been
had some
good?
injury issues, and I think that's why they brought Ted Karras in.
Okay,
But when David Andrews is healthy and playing, he's really good. But that's why you bring Ted Karras in, because Ted Karras is potentially a good starting center in the league. So he'll be an even better backup than to a guy who could potentially be injury prone.
gotcha.
Scroll down, they're keeping Lawrence Guy, which is good for them. That's really good defensive line depth. Rayquan Mcmillan, I love him, Ohio State guy. He'll be a really great linebacker for them, because I think if anybody's going to get the potential that he has, which he does have a lot of potential, I think it's obviously going to be Bill Belichick in that defense. Kyle Van Noy is going to be a great one to bring back. They get him on a 2-year contract worth up to $13.2 million. He takes a pay cut coming over from the Dolphins, but he comes back to the Patriots defense, which he already knows, and he basically can slot in to the same position he was before. So that's huge for them. They also, I believe, get Dante Hightower back as well at middle linebacker. So their linebacking core is solid this year. Jalen Mills comes in as a safety cornerback hybrid, so that helps them a lot too, gives them some flexibility, especially with Patrick Chung retiring, which I wonder if that was kind of in the thought, and that's why they brought Jalen Mills in.
When that came up, it's just something that I just saw that I guess kind of alluded to it. It was the fact that a lot of people thought he was going to retire last year, but with the COVID exceptions, he effectively was able to like peace out for the year and then collect a full year's pay still, and then retire afterward, which is like awesome. Good for you. Yeah. That's
get your bag.
Perfect timing.
I'm always going to support the players. Get your bag.
Yeah, I would not be surprised in the slightest if that was known to the Patriots and they still did not care.
Bill probably didn't care. So
yeah.
All right, next team. I don't think there's really anything huge that changed from last time because we talked about Corey Davis, we talked about Carl Lawson.
I think Rankins was new.
Yeah, LaMarcus Joyner coming over. That's huge. He's a great slot corner, / safety kind of hybrid there. So he plays a lot more in the slot, and that's where he needs to be successful. So that's a good signing.
I don't even know who the hell this is. I didn't even know they were franchise tagged. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best. He's one of the better strong safeties in the league, and has been playing really well for them. He's been pretty much their only like highlight on defense besides Quinton Williams.
Wow. Okay.
So he's just a little like under because he played for the Jets. So it's like you don't know him if he's not like on a successful team.
Yeah. The Ravens, I don't think had anybody. They've just failed at trying to land a wide receiver. That's about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to draft that pretty much. I wonder if in my mock draft I have them drafting a receiver now that I say that out loud, but we'll see. We'll go over that in a second. Riley Reef, I think, is new. That's an interesting signing. I think he's more of a gap tackle. You're really putting him in a right tackle and seeing if it works. Bringing back Quentin Spain's huge. Trey Hendrickson, we talked about. Eli Apple, it's depth corner. No, I don't think anything's really changed there, notable at least.
Same thing for the Browns too.
Yeah, the Browns, I mean, their biggest signing was John Johnson, who's a really, really good safety. So that was a really sneaky good signing. So that helps.
Yeah.
Let's see. Steelers bring back Juju on a short deal. I know that he had offers I saw from like the Chiefs. Like, can you imagine Juju Smith-Schuster on the Chiefs?
It's so weird. Why did he go back to the Steelers who are decaying from the inside?
He kind of said that he said that he wanted to be a Steeler for life. There's something to that. I mean, Mike Tomlin's always been a player's coach, and players always like him. And then, the Steelers just have this mystique about them being a Steeler in Pittsburgh, and the Pittsburgh fans are very like, they will support you if you're on their team and everything like that. So I don't know. Maybe there's just like, maybe he just likes it there. I don't know. Maybe he just is happy with the fan base. He's happy with the team. Success obviously you think would be important, but I mean, at the end of the day, if everything else is great, maybe he just wants to take a 1-year deal, see if it works. And, if he feels better about signing next year with them again, he'll do that. Or if he feels like after this 1-year retry, he, doesn't like it, he can always leave. So
this is like, it's wild to me because I would love to hear what the other contract offers he possibly got, because even at 1 year, this is like, I mean, I know like obviously wide receivers are getting paid like jack for the most part, but like this is a crazy cheap deal and it's spread out cap hit throughout the years. Not that matters to him, it only matters to the team anyways, but like this is so weird. I'm so surprised that he stuck with them and stuck with this contract.
Well, and the other thing too is you also have to keep in mind that the cap is supposed to blow up next year. Juju Smith-Schuster's only 25. This is a 1-year deal back with his team. He's always talked about how he wants to be a Steeler. This gives him another year where he can kind of hold off making a decision on signing a massive contract, potentially elsewhere when the cap finally bounces back next year.
Nobody else really interesting there. Texans.
Texans have been just making some like some odd signings, but also I think I saw a couple interesting ones, like Philip Lindsay. That's a nice signing. He always plays hard at running back. Him and Mark Ingram are actually a pretty decent tandem, I think. So I think that's at least something. Connolly's there. It seems like they're doing whatever they possibly can to like give Deshaun Watson like the hope to come back. We'll talk
Yeah.
about Deshaun Watson and what's happening with him later, but yeah, it seems like they really want him back, and that's why they're trying to do everything in their power to upgrade their team. I mean, signing 4 wide receivers is that's not something that should be taken lightly. Signing 4 receivers, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, making a trade for a tackle, like you're really doing everything in your power to immediately make your offense better.
And so many people were correct about basically across the league, there's going to be so many 1-year deals. I mean, look at that. 1 year, 1 year, 1 year,
Yeah.
2, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Crazy. Literally everyone's banking on next year returning to normal. It's
Yep.
just interesting to me that that's like so agreed upon. Everyone's like, all right, yeah, I'll take it cheap this year so we can get it, when everyone's got a bunch of space next year. Just an interesting
Yep,
thing about the market.
No, I know, it's definitely an odd year for everything, but, I mean, for a lot of players, it's working out really well because a lot of players are able to get a couple $1,000,000, sign a 1-year
Guaranteed.
deal, and yeah, and then be able to hit the free agency market back when it bounces and everybody can spend money again.
Yeah.
So,
I love market
alright.
stuff like that. It's so cool. It's obviously
Yeah.
not going to happen every year, but specifically for this year, it's very interesting.
No, take advantage of it. That's what I was talking about with, like we said, with the Juju Smith-Schuster, signs a 1-year deal, goes back to the Steelers. He says he loves the city. So guess what? He gets to go back for a year and then hits the free agency market when the cap explodes back up at 25 years old. He's in for a big payday.
Yeah.
So
And I don't think they have anything else that really stuck out. I don't think so. They just have their complete
Desmond
laundry
King was a
list.
really nice signing. I will say Desmond King was a really nice signing, a cornerback right there.
Yeah.
That was a really good signing. Desmond King's a really, really talented slot corner. So getting him on a 1-year deal is really nice. And he's not old. Yeah, only
Oh, he's only
26 years old. So
26.
yeah. He played really well over again with the Chargers there. Um very, very like underrated corner. So and again, with the new NFL, I cannot stress how important it is to get a corner that plays very well in the slot because in the modern NFL, with you look at the Packers for instance, how many times do you see Devontae Adams lining up in the slot? I mean, it's absurd, and that's why getting a slot corner that can play really well in the slot and is talented is so important in the league nowadays. So that's why you're seeing all of these slot corners getting these deals, and like a Desmond King, for example, getting this 1-year deal right here. That's teams are going to make that a very like high importance pickup because yeah, you should have a number 1 corner, but number 2 corners in the league have almost been devalued at this point now because a lot of wide receivers really aren't lining up in the number 2, like where a number 2 corner would cover. It's usually they line up either where the number 1 corner is going to cover them or the slot.
Yeah. And
So
why would you choose to go up against the number 1 corner if that makes sense?
that's
Like, why would you
that's why
scheme that way?
that's why they're all lining up in the slot. It makes it so much easier to put Devontae Adams in the slot and have him go up against, a nobody corner who's in the slot and rather than him going up against your number 1.
Colts, bunch of cap space. The only thing they did that was interesting was T.Y. Hilton returning, probably for his last year.
Yeah, and I heard watching the Pat McAfee show, apparently T.Y. Hilton, he reported himself to the Pat McAfee show live that he had turned down, he said, a lot of money from another team in order to come back to the
The
Colts.
Ravens.
Probably. That's you don't need to whisper, Dylan. You're probably right.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. Again, I guess you really like the city that much and you made enough money, so who cares? But it's hard to believe that you'd resist going to get the bag, especially if you're thinking this is going to be your last contract, which he's apparently said a couple of times.
yeah.
Why would you
I
not
mean,
take the 2-year or 3-year deal and then take the money and retire? But
you're getting 10 million, and you're probably going to be a slot receiver, which is where he should line up. So, I
yeah,
mean, at the end of the day, and if Carson Wentz, like I said, plays anywhere near his old self, I mean, you're talking about T.Y. Hilton finally getting a good quarterback with a ridiculous team around him. So
yeah.
there's a lot of
Who's their
intrigue
number
there. I
1
could see
corner?
where, huh?
I'm sorry, who's their number 1 wideout?
the number one wide. Well, they don't really have a number one right now, but they also have draft capital and really no needs except for left tackle. So,
Yeah.
and you could sign a left tackle and then sign a wide receiver a second round, and by all of a sudden now you have you fit your two needs. They really only have two needs because this re-signing Xavier Rhodes doesn't seem like a ton, but Xavier Rhodes was like top 7 in like a lot of you know uh things, statistics and stuff that matter as a corner. And so bringing him back is huge for their secondary. So really the only needs that they typically have is left tackle because Anthony Costanzo retired, which by the way saved them like 15 to 20 million dollars. Uh even though they already had like 60 to spend. And then bringing T.Y. Hilton back puts another wide receiver in the slot. Michael Pittman hopefully makes the jump and becomes your number 2 receiver. And then you draft well enough and you end up with a number 1 receiver plus a left tackle that you bring in from the draft as well. And it could be first round you pick a tackle, or first round pick a wide receiver, and then second round you pick the opposite. That could be their plan. Ballard always drafts super well, so I feel confident in him to do that. So really, it makes sense for him to come back, especially if Ty is okay with taking a 1-year deal with the Colts, and then when the cap hits next year, he can come back on a bigger deal to a different team. So
Yeah. Cool. And
but
the Jaguars.
The Jaguars really haven't done anything different. I mean, none of these look new, and none of these deals. We could scroll down. I don't think any of them are.
Did you see the video of Cam Robinson talking about having a number 1 pick?
No, really?
It was kind of funny. It was, yeah.
It's just always exciting when you can, what I'm saying, we do have the first pick, and we are. Well, I guess I can't really say. We do have the first pick.
I can't hear it.
Oh, you can't.
What does he say though?
Basically, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna like, well, I can't really say like if we're gonna draft or whatever," but he's kind of just like laughing. I'm looking forward to that. Whoever we're gonna pick, it's gonna be really good.
Whoever we pick with the first pick.
Yeah.
Whoever we pick with the first pick.
When we draft a tall 6'6" quarterback from a school that you definitely know. I can't name it or name him, but you know who I'm talking about. Like when we draft him, yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's funny. He's pumped. He's like he's getting a new toy. It's awesome. Okay. So, we've got the Titans, which we haven't done anything new, I don't think.
I mean, they signed Josh Reynolds, hopefully to be a replacement for Corey Davis. That's basically the only newest thing. Janoris Jenkins being a slot corner. Again, slot corner is important, coming over from the Saints. So that's, nothing new there. They also lost a lot of corners, which they, need to address. So that's why they end up getting 2 here. But I think they'll get one in the draft as a little teaser. But continue on. The Broncos. Broncos, nothing really new. Kareem Jackson
what do you mean?
Coming back on a 1-year deal is big. He's
the
again
Kyle
a
Fuller
safety.
signing.
Oh yeah, I wonder about that. We'll talk about that later. Anyways, Mike Remmers re-signing gives them at least one of the tackle positions, and then potentially Kyle Long moves over. I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, the Chiefs looked at last year's Super Bowl and went, you know what our biggest problem was? Having tackles on the roster. Let's cut them. And that's what they did. And here we are with the signing of 2 guards and a serviceable tackle. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. I mean, it's the Chiefs. You can't count them out. So who knows? Maybe they draft well with a tackle.
I was going to say, isn't that who they have to be drafting a tackle, right? Like, what else do they have to address?
Shall see, Dylan. All right. Nothing really new here.
Tight end Derek Carr, rear. It's funny.
He's a re-signing though, so it's really nothing new. Yeah, nothing new out of them. We talked about them last week. Some interesting signings for sure. Jared Cook coming to the Chargers basically as a replacement.
He will never stop playing.
Listen, if he's going to keep playing at the level he's playing at, I mean, he doesn't need to. So
yeah,
I mean, he's consistently like one of the best tight ends in the league every year. So
he's only 33.
Yeah, and he's 6'6", 250. Anyways, yeah, it's a good replacement for Henry Hunter, who unfortunately they lost. And Henry Hunter is not really, you can't replace Henry Hunter, but you did a pretty darn good job in Jared Cook, I would say.
Hunter Henry.
There we go. mixing up his name.
Henry Hunter is cool though.
Listen, there are 2 first names, one's the last. It's confusing.
Cowboys did nothing.
Cowboys, nothing new. I mean, Keanu Neal. Wait, let's say Keanu Neal's a linebacker? That can't be right. Click on Keanu Neal. I want to make sure that's a different Keanu Neal. He's a safety. What are they talking about? A linebacker? Did he play linebacker for the? Okay. All right.
News.
All right. Calm down. I was about to say I'm like linebacker. It's like that doesn't make any sense. That's interesting. Keanu Neal was like, I mean, he's a good safety. He's only like 26 years old, so that definitely helps. They needed safety help though, so I'm confused as to why they moved him to a linebacker. I don't know. I'm not gonna go into it. It's the Cowboys. Who knows?
Yeah.
But big signing here, obviously, the receiver that you alluded to earlier when you said that not everybody was getting cheap deals. But Kenny Gallaudet getting a massive deal. Apparently, so I was listening into kind of what happened with Kenny Gallaudet. So apparently, I wasn't what I thought initially. So initially, it was reported that the Bears offered like a 1-year, $12 million deal. Apparently, I heard from Ian Rappaport that Kenny Gallaudet actually had been offered a multi-year deal in the tens of millions of dollars a year from the Bears.
Yeah, and I don't understand that, but yeah.
Well, apparently they were trying to give the Chicago Bears the best wide receiver duo that they have had in years.
With which would have been sick. I just feel like I might have pissed Allen Robinson off, but
well, I mean, we're trying to do that with everything in our power, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But for now, we talk about Kenny Gallaudet. Apparently, that was a deal that was offered. The Bengals had offered a 1-year, $13 million deal. That obviously didn't float his boat because he wanted a multi-year deal. And if he's getting a multi-year offer from the Bears, then that's the case. Apparently, then he went to the Giants. He spent the night in New York with the Giants organization, which usually when players spend the night with an organization, it's more than likely that they want to be there. So they're going to get a deal done. And so unfortunately, the Bears basically just bid it against the guy who wanted to be with the Giants more. So he goes to the Giants. He goes to the team he wanted to, a 4-year, $72 million deal. It's a big deal for a guy who I think he's in like that like second tier of really good wide receivers because he, for me, doesn't get open as much as he should on his own. And I think that's his biggest issue. But I mean, it's still a great signing because they really needed the help. And honestly, I've really liked what the Giants have done as far as helping their like entire thing. Because if you scroll down too, they made some other signings. Yeah, Dory Jackson, who again we talked about slot corners, massive deal for a really, really, really talented slot corner who's only 26, 27 years old. From a Dory Jackson, that's one of the players that the Titans lost. That's a massive thing for the Giants. They needed help in the secondary. And then you get Kyle Rudolph coming over, who will be a great backup tight end to Evan Ingram, who can't stay healthy. So guess what? You get a tight end that you feel comfortable with if Evan Ingram goes down with injury. John Ross, who's a speedster. I mean, he literally set the record for the official record. We're not talking about the unofficial record, which is probably, CJ or 2K20 or I would say either him or probably Bo. But anyways, John Ross, maybe they can get something out of him. It's a great deal regardless because you're getting a deep threat guy. And then Kenny Gallaudet, obviously filling in alongside Darius Slayton, is really just an awesome overall change for them. And it feels like the Giants are giving everything they can to Jones to see if he's worth anything, and we'll see if Danny Dimes can answer. So this is unfortunate for the Bears getting Joe Flacco because it basically means that the Eagles are probably going to stop trying to trade for Nick Foles because they basically just wanted a backup quarterback for Jalen Hurts because ownership came down and basically told everybody within the Eagles organization that they want Jalen Hurts to get a shot. And I think that's great because I think Jalen Hurts is a really talented quarterback who I think with the right players around him could potentially be a starter in this league that will win you a lot of games. Now, will he reach any level of superstar, or star in this league? I mean, it's up for debate. We haven't seen it yet. He hasn't had the full season to do so. And I don't think he's really going to get as much help with the Eagles. Now, I do think the Eagles will help him a little bit out in the draft, which we will talk about in my mock draft. But I am at least intrigued by Jalen Hurts being the starter next year. And at least, the very least, the Eagles, who are a team that is transitioning from a championship roster that's now old and too expensive, moving into a much younger, cheaper roster in the next 2 years or so. Hopefully, they get at least a little bit of out of Jalen Hurts and are able to get a little bit of production where they're kind of exciting, but they're still bad enough where they can rebuild through the draft and basically build around Jalen Hurts. And I hope they do so because I really would love to see Jalen Hurts succeed. So I've liked what they've done a lot, honestly. I mean, the Ryan Fitzpatrick thing's interesting, but whatever. I mean, there's a lot you could say about them and everything like that. But I don't know what you're doing.
It's like off center. I don't understand. How do you mess that up?
I don't know, Dylan. Listen, did you hear? Did you hear about the Dan Snyder thing today?
He's buying out his minority shares.
Oh my god, it just keeps getting worse for them, dude.
He's like, you don't like me. You're sick of my shit. How about I'll buy you out. You don't have to deal with me ever again.
How about instead of dealing with me and all the other people that you like a lot better, how about you just deal with me?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Unfortunate for that organization. They're just not. You're just gonna keep going through that like unfortunate limbo of we hate our owner. He doesn't know what to do with the team. He doesn't care that the team was needed to be changed. And I don't know. But anyways, looking at their free agency signing, I like what they did with Curtis Samuel. I like Brennan Sheriff coming back. William Jackson's new, coming over from the Bengals. He was, I believe, a victim of the salary cap needing to be cut. So he was, and signed a good deal with Washington. He is a good corner, so that's a good pickup for them. So that's really the only new signing. But I do like what they're doing, at least with bringing Curtis Samuel.
Oh yeah, Curtis Samuel's deal is
All right. Here we.
I'm ready to hear
go.
I'm ready to hear your angry reaction because I'm in the rationality acceptance stage.
Oh boy, I started to get into it a little bit, like my initial angry reaction with my dad when we were talking about it, and I was like, I have to stop. I have to contain myself because I need to do this on the podcast. What in the actual fuck are we doing? What are we doing? What are we trying to do? I mean, we're basically in limbo. We're in fucking limbo where it's like you know what it is Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy and them are probably at this very moment pitching a soft rebuild to ownership, and they're probably going to draft a quarterback. Little tip to my mock draft. We'll take a look at that later. What they're going to draft, but probably going to draft a quarterback. They're probably going to be like, hey, we have this quarterback. We need to develop him. Let's give us a couple more years. And I'm sure ownership's going to be like, yeah, that's great. I have no clue how to run an organization. Sounds fantastic. So here we are with our soft rebuild, which is Andy Dalton at quarterback, Damian Williams coming in, which actually I like Damian Williams. He's probably the only signing on, was probably one of the only signings on here that I like.
Yeah.
Just because he actually comes in and is an actual good running back to be used. But the only issue is that I am not very confident in Matt Nagy's ability to use 3 running backs because I've seen it before and it's been bad. So
Yeah, he doesn't even like to use one.
Especially because we lost, what was it, Davis, right? Was the other one? And then what did he do? He went to Carolina. Christian McCaffrey went down, and then Davis was like, all of a sudden, he's a good starting running back. And it's like, yeah, he just wasn't utilized for crap here, which is basically how it's been the entire time that we've been here. So, anyways, then Allen Robinson, franchise tag, yeah, great. He signs it. He's still pissed off, and we're just doing everything we possibly can to piss him off. It's like we're like the freaking in that scenario, we're like the Packers. It's like your one player is Aaron Rodgers. Let's piss him off as much as possible every single year with our free agency and draft. That's what we're trying to do with Allen Robinson. So then that happens. Then Jermaine Ifedi comes in at right tackle. Okay, fine. He was somewhat serviceable. Granted, he did fail for the Seahawks at right tackle, but hey, let's bring him in. And so then we bring in Elijah Wilkinson, who I'm actually slightly happy about too, because I feel like he actually could compete for a starting job. So yay, there's that. Mario Edwards Jr., a very good depth pass rusher, but hey, let's make him the starting, left end or whatever. So that's fantastic. great depth guy at starting position. Then we get Angelo Blackson. Does anybody know who that is? I don't, but he signed a 2-year deal, so apparently the Bears think that he could be here for 2 years. Probably a depth guy. Probably never going to see him again. Then you get Jeremiah. I can't even say your name, buddy, but I'm sorry that you're here. I feel bad for you. You should have signed somewhere else. We gave you a 2-year deal. Again, the funny part is I thought about when you were talking about like earlier when you said like, oh, everybody's signing for a 1-year deal. And then I thought about the Bears and how we're just signing everybody for longer than a 1-year deal. And I just
They didn't get the memo.
Like, we're signing the wrong people, I should say, for longer than a 1-year deal. Like, we bring in Mario Edwards on a 3-year extension. He doesn't need an extension. You could sign him to an extension next year if he's productive. You don't need to do that now. Like, just sign him to a 1-year deal, for God's sake. Then Blackson, does he need a 2-year deal? Do we really need him for 2 years? Like, I sign him to a 1-year deal.
It's so weird because it seems like they're just not in tune with the rest of the league, and like the players are like, oh my god, I want to sign for like more guaranteed job security, and then the team obviously is being like, we don't want to commit to you that long, all the other teams, and they're like 1 year, and they're like, okay, 1 year makes sense, and the Bears are like, whoa, you want to stay here for 2 years? And they're like, yeah, and they're like, okay, well of course we'll take you for that.
Yep.
It's just like they don't understand what's going on with the rest of the league.
Yeah, and then like Jeremiah, probably he's a good depth pass rusher. I guess we're hoping that maybe he comes in and plays significant minutes in place of our incredible signing last year with what's that pass rusher that was supposed to actually help out
Robert Quinn.
didn't do anything. Yeah, Robert Quinn, that guy. He's on the roster still, getting paid like, I don't know, a boatload of money for no reason. So let's bring him in. And then you know what would be genius? You know what would be great, Dylan? You know what would be fantastic? You know what the Bears need right now, right this second, is to cut their best corner. That's what we need right now. Serve it up on a hot platter. Boom, cut, goodbye. We don't even get a pick out of it. We won't even get anything out of it. You know what we get is a cue from the Broncos as they go, thanks for giving us a corner. Hey, we needed a corner. Thanks for giving us one of the best corners in the league. Like it's just so annoying. Like, why was Kyle Fuller's production? You know, people can argue like, oh, well, I don't think Kyle Fuller was worth $20 million a year. And it's like, okay, well, you go get me a corner who's better. And then the Bears went, we'll give you Desmond Trufant, and I go, thanks. I guess I can watch him. I guess last year when I used to watch him get blown by on the Lions, now I can do it on my own team. So that, there's that. Thanks.
Yeah, that's.
I hate everything about it. I hate everything about this freaking offseason every single time. Last week we had to deal with all the stupid shit about Andy Dalton signing. And then me and you were like, tune in next week for whatever Bears news happens. And then literally the next day it was like, Kyle Fuller cut, Akeem Hicks gonna get traded. And it was like, why? Why are we just burning this to the ground? Well, like, I'm just so annoyed. It's like this is the year where we should have had a new coach and everything, and we should have drafted a quarterback, and I would have felt good about it because we would have drafted a quarterback along with bringing in a new coach. And instead, we get the same group who are now just trying. It's like the Bill O'Brien, let's just destroy the team from the inside out before we leave. And this is what we're getting. Like, I literally sat there and I was like, I don't think Ryan Pace wants a job. Like, I don't think he does after looking at these signings. Like, I think he is putting the message out there that I don't want to be here anymore. Now I'm thinking that maybe it's not him. Maybe he told ownership, listen, I've sucked. I want to leave. And the ownership was like, no. And he was like, but I want to. And he's like, they're like, no, not going to happen. Like,
sorry, we need you. We need you more. I
hate everything about it. It's gonna be so bad. We're gonna go like, at best, we're gonna be 9-7 next year. At worst, we're probably gonna be like, I don't know, 6-11.
Yeah.
The worst part too is now we have an extra game next year to suck at. So that's great. Now I have an extra week that I have to be on the couch for and watch disappointingly as we get blown the fuck out by, the Texans who have signed nobody.
The Texans with Ryan Finley at quarterback, or whoever they traded for.
Honestly, I feel better about Ryan Finley being here than Andy Dalton. At least with Ryan Finley, I'd be like, listen, we're not trying. With Andy Dalton, it feels
Ah,
like we're trying, but not really.
come on, maybe it'll work out if they just give him
It,
a great offense. Here's me,
yeah, because it worked out
clown.
so great. Dylan, we signed a $3 million backup quarterback who didn't perform well last year to a $10 million starting quarterback job.
Yeah, well, here we are.
So
Bear down.
I just bear down. I'll be on the couch every freaking week like an idiot. I hate it. I hate it. Like you
I'll
said,
be
this
out
whole
there for my
17
man,
game season.
Kairos.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching the special teams. Thank God I love special teams because that's the only thing I'll be watching at the freaking Bears. It's the only thing I'll be happy about.
God damn it.
I hate us. I just hate us. Like all of these signings are great signings if you have Russell Wilson as your quarterback and Allen Robinson got signed to an extension and is not pissed off, and you have Kyle Fuller. All of these then are great signings.
How about a rookie quarterback?
Even then, a rookie quarterback wouldn't be that bad if you weren't trying to if you didn't cut Kyle Fuller and try to trade Akeem Hicks, because trying to trade Akeem Hicks basically means that Akeem Hicks is done after this year. This is his farewell tour. He's done after this year. He's gone. So what you're telling me is you don't want to get anything for him, so he's gone for free. And then Kyle Fuller gone for free. And then Allen Robinson next year when the freaking salary cap goes way up, and Allen Robinson, who we didn't even want to pay on the discounted rate that he was going to give us, is going to get a massive deal from the Ravens next year. So there's that, and it's just so bad. We're so bad. We're going to be in such disarray next year, and it's going to be such a pitiful season the whole way. And honestly, I hope to God what happens next year. Best case scenario now as a Bears fan, and this is dismal, but I think the best case scenario for us now as a Bears fan is for us to draft the quarterback and then have him sit the entire year and then us just suck next year. Because then we can get a good draft pick. We fire everybody. He's had an entire year to learn at the NFL level and can jump in with a new head coach, with a new quarterback, ready to start over again for the 100th time.
No, you got to play him. They don't sit it anymore. What if he sucks? What if he just sat out the whole year and then he comes back with a new coach and he sucks ass?
Yeah, but at least then you start there. At least you start there.
Yeah. You start with a new coach you're tied to, and you tied him with a quarterback that sucks.
Yeah, but you don't have to time with a quarterback. You draft a quarterback. It doesn't mean you can't draft one next year. If you suck and then you end up with a top 4 pick next year and you want to draft a quarterback in the top 3, then go ahead. You have a new leadership. But at least you have a quarterback that if they feel happy about him being there, they at least have him. Or you
True.
at least have draft capital, somebody to trade.
Yeah, very true.
So, all right, well, we got to move on from the Bears because I could sit here all night being pissed off at them. The Lions, the Lions really haven't done anything new. Jamal Williams is a good signing. They're basically kind of trying to see what they can get out of Goff. They're the Lions. We might actually lose to the Lions this year, so there's that. But
Yeah. Have you heard this theory about Tim Boyle?
no, what is it?
There's a cult fan following of Packers fans that are convinced that Tim Boyle is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but never got his chance because he was always behind Aaron Rodgers.
Oh my god.
And he's super old.
That's not how that works.
Oh, what? He's 26? Oh my god, he could be.
He's not super old.
Oh god, that's actually... I like this.
That's it. You heard it here, folks. The Lions have got their next superstar quarterback.
Okay, the Lions suck. No one cares. They're going to lose anyway. Shit team.
They're probably going to beat us.
Yeah.
Mercedes Lewis comes back. Hey, remember that guy, Kevin King, that I told you about in the AFC Championship or NFC Championship that got beat every single play? And I was like, man, that guy probably shouldn't be on an NFL roster. Well, he's back for $6 million.
Score.
Congratulations, Packers fans. You get another year of him.
That was fun breaking down his tape.
Huh?
That was fun breaking down his tape.
Yeah.
Seeing exactly what the hell that was.
They haven't done anything, the Vikings, besides that. I mean, that's pretty much it. So we can move on from them. Patrick Peterson's fun. Delvin Tomlinson's fun. That's pretty much it. Falcons have at
Yeah.
least done a little bit more. Signing Mike Davis is nice because they needed a running back badly. So getting a running back in there who is actually pretty decent is good. They're the ones that ended up with Barkevius Mingo. I was curious. It's a bunch of backups, basically. I mean, the Falcons are going to rebuild. They're about to enter a full rebuild. That's why probably Julio Jones is getting traded next year when Matt Ryan gets cut. So, I mean, unfortunately, as Falcons fans, you're going through a rebuild. That's what's happened.
You are here in the rebuild. Sorry.
Exactly. Panthers, nothing new. It looks like, nothing new. Hassan Reddick's a nice pickup. Nothing really to note of there. Nothing new for the Saints. They're just re-signing everybody. Same with the Buccaneers. They were just re-signing
Sue.
everybody. They did give a massive deal. Oh, he's finalizing a deal?
Mhm.
Oh, shoot, that screws up my mock draft. Kind of. Yeah, we'll see. That's interesting, signing a one-year deal. So they're bringing him back. They basically just want to run it back, is what they're saying.
That's what they said,
signed
and that's
their
what they're doing.
They signed their left tackle, Donovan Smith, to a massive deal, which is interesting because I don't even think he really deserved a massive deal, but he got one. It's not on there. I don't know why it's not. I don't know if it's just not finalized yet, but I did see that they signed him to a massive deal, or we're about to.
I see.
Cardinals, nothing new, but I really do like what the Cardinals have been doing. So, I mean, there's at least that. I love them getting AJ Green as a depth wide receiver. I love them getting Rodney Hudson basically for nothing. I mean, a third round selection's nothing compared to a center who's going to play consistently as a pro at near Pro Bowl level at center. JJ Watt, obviously, if they use him correctly, is a fantastic signing for their defense and finally gives them a little bit of pass rush help. There with who's the pass? Chandler Jones. There we go.
Yeah.
They give a little bit of Chandler Jones help too. So
Nothing.
The Rams got to Deshaun Jackson, so that was at least interesting, I guess. They get a speedster. Leonard Floyd signing is weird for me, but I mean, we talked about it in detail last week, so.
Yeah.
All right, San Francisco 49ers, nothing new there. Yeah, nothing new. I mean, they made that massive deal. They've already they're basically just re-signing everybody and making those massive deals with their left tackle, Williams. They bring back Chris Carson, which is big. There are a lot of rumors of him going to the Dolphins potentially. So Seahawks get him back. And they're basically in full commitment of trying to keep Russell Wilson. So giving him some help with Gerald Everett and Gabe Jackson at offensive line. All right, let's transition now into my mock draft and start out with our top 5. Now, I did make a massive trade in this top 5, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So we'll get to it. Let's just finish off with this first. So top 5, there's a run on quarterbacks. This is all I can say. And it's just the way that it played out. Like, I know that maybe it won't on draft night, but it just feels like this is how it's going to play out. So what I have is the Jacksonville Jaguars, the same as last mock draft, drafting Trevor Lawrence. That's a given. They're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. It's set in stone. Same with, in my opinion, the New York Jets drafting Zach Wilson. I think both of those picks are set in stone. That's what's happening. I don't think there's going to be any trades in the top 2. That's done. Now, where I do think a trade is going to happen, which I have right here at the 3rd pick with the Carolina Panthers, is I have them trading up from 8 in order to jump the Falcons for Justin Fields. Now, I do think that Justin Fields had a lot of hype at the beginning of the Ohio State season, and he didn't perform to the liking of a lot of people. I'm an Ohio State fan, so I fall into that category with us not doing too much championship-wise. But what Justin Fields brings, though, is a massive arm, a lot of potential, athletic ability, and seems to be one of those quarterbacks who, I mean, he was in the top 2 conversation. It was Trevor Lawrence at 1 and Justin Fields at 2 before Zach Wilson stormed onto the scene during his season. So I think Justin Fields gets more hype, and the hype kind of continues to build with him as he goes into the draft. And I think they jump the Falcons at 3. And the reason why I think they jump the Falcons at 3 is because I feel like the Dolphins don't need anybody as immediate. Like, their needs can be filled later. And so I think they need to trade back in order to basically accumulate a little bit more picks. I think that's just a smart thing for them because I think if they drafted one of their needs, which you'll see in a moment when we get to them, it's too early. So that's what I would say basically. Then I move on to the Falcons. They draft Trey Lance because they miss out on Justin Fields. So I think they're probably zeroing in on Justin Fields or Trey Lance. And I think Justin Fields gets the edge because, again, I think just his hype is going to build too much to where he ends up there at 3. Now, I think that this was a thought that was kind of inspired a little bit by, I think, Mel Kiper's 3.0 that came out with the Panthers trading up. But to me, I really looked at the Dolphins and I really thought about it. And I was like, listen, the Dolphins have certain needs and those needs can be filled later in the draft. They don't need to draft at 3. So what I thought is who are they going to trade it down for? The Panthers desperately need a quarterback. I think they're going to fail and miss out on the Deshaun Watson whole thing because the Texans are trying everything in their best to not trade him. And so I think the Panthers just give in and finally trade for a quarterback. So I think they trade up with the Dolphins, and that's the most obvious trade to me that made the most sense for both parties. Because then the Panthers get a quarterback that they can, because he doesn't even have to start. That's the thing, is they have Teddy Bridgewater for another year or two. So they can cut Teddy Bridgewater after this year. Um, for I think saves them like I think it's not too much of a penalty for them to cut him after this year. So I think you put Justin Fields there, you let him learn, sit behind Teddy Bridgewater for a year, and then you bring him in next year, or after next year, and he's ready to go. That's where I think the Panthers go. Then the Falcons in the next pick, missing out on the Justin Fields thing. They liked Trey Lance, I think, in their scouting department, so they go with Trey Lance here at 4. Reason why is because I don't think that they shy away from a quarterback that needs a little bit more development, particularly because in my last mock draft, I really highlighted it, but I think they're perfect in their placement in the draft for signing a quarterback or drafting a quarterback that can sit behind Matt Ryan for a year because it's guaranteed that Matt Ryan's going to be there next year. They lose too much money if they cut him. So what I think is get a developmental quarterback who you think has a huge upside and let him sit for a year. I think that's the perfect situation for him. He learns behind Matt Ryan, who I think he'll learn a lot from because Matt Ryan has been a really talented quarterback in the league and done it at a very high level. And so Trey Lance gets that experience. They can cut Matt Ryan, save $20+ million next year. Bam, they get a quarterback that steps in that has a lot of potential. At 22 years old, he'll step in because he's only 21 right now. So it's a massive thing for them. So
Interesting. I like that too.
Anything in those top 4? I know it's a run on quarterbacks. Anything you could think of or that you like there?
I like the Trey Lance to Falcons because I hadn't really thought about that, and I agree with you. I don't think Matt Ryan is going anywhere this year, so you might as well take that time to develop someone. I think if the Panthers do take Justin Fields, he's going to be a similar situation as all the other quarterbacks, where Teddy Bridgewater continues to be milk toast and lukewarm, and he'll start after like 6 games.
Yep.
But yeah, everything else, I hope there's a massive trade. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I think Justin Fields is a fringe starter. Like, I think he's a fringe could start. I think Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence, I'm confident starting day one. That's where I draw the line, though. I think Justin Fields, though, is like on that line. Like, he's a fringe, could be a starter day one if they needed him to be, but I think he's better off if he's able to sit, whether it be for like what you said, 6 games or not. I think that's just where I feel with him. I feel like he would benefit a lot more in his game from learning, but because he does have a couple things he should work out in his game, but I think that he could start if you needed him to. Okay, well then we skip on from the quarterback run that just happened and we move down to the Bengals. Now I think the Bengals make a interesting move here, and I think the Bengals get Kyle Pitts. Now I know that this was in Mel Kiper's mock draft, and I know a lot of people didn't like that it was in Mel Kiper's mock draft because they thought that there was other needs for the Bengals. But I don't think you understand what Kyle Pitts is. I don't think those people understand what Kyle Pitts can be in this freaking league. Kyle Pitts is the epitome of a perfect tight end for the modern day NFL. If you look at him, he's like 6'6", like 240, and apparently he ran like a really fast 40. I don't know what his what his 40 was. Look up his 40. He's like 20 years old, by the way. It's just to highlight that.
Holy shit.
6'6", 240. Yeah, exactly what I said. Look up his 40 time. I don't know if they showed it because I think he just had his pro day, and I think it blew a lot of people away. But he's got an incredible athletic build and skills. He's a wide receiver tight end hybrid, which is unbelievably perfect for the modern day NFL. And I just feel like that giving 4.46, yeah, that's wild at 6'6", 240. That's insane. I mean, he's just unbelievable. He's going to be a superstar in this league. Like, people don't understand he's going to be a superstar. There's no, like, I don't have a doubt in my mind about a prospect in this. Like, there's nobody in this draft besides maybe Panay Sol who I think is going to be a superstar in this league more than this guy.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I've heard Kyle Pitts so many times because of like how good he is and everything. And I was like, oh, that's cool and stuff. And I thought I thought his real name was Kylie Pitts, and I heard about that a bunch.
Yeah.
And then 2, I was 100% sure he was a white guy by his name, especially when I thought it was Kylie Pitts. So when you told me that this was Kyle Pitts, I was like, oh shit, I had no idea. Because he looks like a monster, and I thought he was just like a really, really athletically, I don't know, finessing, cool looking dude or whatever named Kylie, and he was like a baller in college or something. I didn't know he was a monster who's like a generational prospect. So this is new for me to know.
Generational, he's a freak of nature. I mean, he's 6'6", 240, running a 4.46 is wild at tight end. He's literally a tight end wide receiver hybrid, which again there is literally nothing more perfect than that in the NFL right now. Like, you look at Kelsey, who doesn't line up usually on the line. That's what we're talking about. That's what he's going to be. Except for, I think he's faster than Kelsey. Like, so if he continues to develop and has the hands like Kelsey, he could be a lot better than Kelsey. Like, that's how scary he is as a prospect. Like, it's unbelievable. And that's why, like, when people were upset that maybe it wasn't the right fit for the Bengals or whatever, and maybe the Bengals should address other needs. No, go get yourself a generational talent who Joe Burrow for his entire career will have as a safety valve in this league, and you will not be disappointed.
Okay, I'm sold on that. I've always heard Soul or whatever.
Yeah. I really think that Panay Sol could be the pick there, but in my heart, I just think Kyle Pitts is going to have enough hype, as well as I think he's a bona fide superstar, that you got to pick him. All right. Okay. And then moving on to the Eagles, I think the Eagles kind of get lucky here with that trade, because I think if the Dolphins didn't make that trade happen in this draft, they wouldn't be getting Ja'Marr Chase right here at 6. Ja'Marr Chase would most likely be taken at 3 by the Dolphins. But I think because the Dolphins picked up Will Fuller, I think the Dolphins think that they can address wide receiver later in the draft at 8, which you'll see. But I think here the Eagles get lucky. They get Ja'Marr Chase, who is the best prospect available in this draft. He was the top receiver going into the year, and he opted out of the year, I believe. But I think he's going to probably have a pro day. I would assume he's going to participate to remind everybody that he's the best wide receiver in this draft. Even over Devontae Smith. I think he's also just the better fit here for the Eagles, because I think the Eagles really need a solid wide receiver route runner who's going to be a reliable target for Jalen Hurts. They also have Jalen Reagor already for the Eagles, who's a speedster, but not a reliable guy in the red zone. So that's where you get Ja'Marr Chase comes in. He's your number 1 receiver. Jalen Reagor's your number 2. That's an awesome setup. Or Jalen Reagor could be your slot. I mean, that's up to them, their matchups. But that's a really great receiving core for years to come. Lions, I think, the Lions are surprised that he fell to them. But, they get Devontae Smith, the Heisman winning wide receiver, who I think is going to be a star in this league. I think he's a little undersized, and that's the only part that scares me. Everything else is great. He's a fantastic route runner. He's got an incredible speed. He's got an incredible acceleration too. He can just flat out run. And he also is one of the smartest wide receivers in this draft, knowing how to manipulate the defenders, knowing how to run his routes effectively against the defense. And that's what's really separated him from the other wide receivers, and that's why he won the Heisman. and that's why he put up such great numbers, is because he runs those routes so well and he's so smart for a wide receiver. I just think his only issue is that he basically told, he didn't do a pro day, but he basically said that he weighed in at 170. 170 to me at size 6'1" is incredibly thin. That's the only part that scares me, is he could get bodied by a corner. That's my only
Yeah.
problem with it. That's my only fear. That literally, as small of a fear as it can be, that's the only one that I have. So everything else is great. I think he gets drafted right here by the Detroit Lions, who really need a wide receiver, obviously replacing Kenny Gallaudet. And I think honestly, Devontae Smith is going to be better than Kenny Gallaudet.
Wow.
Miami Dolphins, who made that trade down from the Panthers at 8, end up with Jalen Waddle. So they got Will Fuller, who's a speedster. I think they go with the next best wide receiver off the board. They don't get Jamar Chase, they don't get Devontae Smith, but I think they're very happy with getting Jalen Waddle, who I think is the fastest receiver in this draft. I think if he ran healthy, if he ran a 40, he would probably run in the low 4.3s, high 4.2s, which is wild. Very similar to Henry Ruggs before him that came from Alabama. I think Jalen Waddle is a speedster and a guy who can do a lot too in punt return and kick return. So I think he just does a lot for your team. And I think the Dolphins getting Will Fuller, getting him. The Dolphins already have a couple wide receivers that have red zone potential or are really good in the red zone. So what they really need is just an injection of speed. They get that in Will Fuller, and then they get that here with Jalen Waddle.
You have so much offense in the top 10.
Listen, it's an offensive league. That's the way it's going. And when
Yeah.
you also see the other thing too, which I struggled with, which I think was interesting, is if you look at my top 8, there's 3 wide receivers and 4 quarterbacks and 1 tight end who's basically a wide receiver tight end hybrid. So really you're looking at almost 4 wide receivers and 4 quarterbacks. That's what the league is. I mean, the league is getting a quarterback and then getting somebody he can throw to in this modern NFL with a passing league that, really loves speed. And that's
Yeah.
what all of these guys bring. It was kind of a combination of, it's the modern NFL. It was also a combination of, this fits the needs of the team that's picking at that time. And that's the way it played out. I don't feel great about it, because I don't think at the end of the day, it's one of those where I feel like that's too good to be true, that it's not going to play out that way, just because it feels a little too much. But ideally, this is what every team needs. And these are who are available. They should draft them.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay, and then rounding out the top 10 here, we have the Broncos. They don't need wide receiver or quarterback. Well, they need a quarterback, but I think everybody that they're confident in drafting top 10 is gone. So I think that they're looking at the next best thing that they need, which is a middle linebacker that will secure them for the next 10 years potentially, which is Micah Parsons. Great run stopping linebacker. Probably needs to get his coverage skills up a little bit, but he's one of those linebackers that he kind of feels like Rayquan Smith to me, except for maybe a bigger version. So not going to fly around the field as much as Rayquan Smith does, but he's just a perfect middle linebacker. He's like what you dream of a middle linebacker being, like size wise and everything. That's who Micah Parsons in, skills wise and everything. He'll be your starting middle linebacker that runs your defense for the next 5 to 10 years. And that's who the Broncos are hoping to get here. And they feel a need to, like I said, quarterbacks, obviously something they really need to consider, with Drew Lock being there. They don't really feel too confident in him, but no quarterbacks available that would be comfortable drafting top 10. So they go with a guy who they know is going to be a generational talent.
Okay.
And then we round out the top 10 again with the Dallas Cowboys. They really need secondary help. They get it in a corner out of Alabama, Patrick Surtain II, who I think is the best corner in the draft. I think his hype will continue to build, but he's been the best corner all year. He's looked the best corner all year, and he is the best corner at 6'2", as well as great size for a corner at number 1. So he'll be fantastic stepping in as the number 1 corner. New York Giants at 11 have the pick. They need an edge rusher. I think out of all of the edge rushers, it's interesting because there's been a lot of hype. Like, the hype changes between who you think is going to be there. Kuti Pai, I think, has been the hypest pass rusher. I think he's the most complete pass rusher. And so I think the Giants go with a sure thing in him, and they need edge rush a lot. That's the only thing that they really didn't upgrade at all this offseason. They upgraded their wide receivers. They upgraded their tight end. Their offensive line is still not bad. They upgraded the secondary. What do they need? They need edge rush bad. And so what do? They go out and get an edge rusher right here who they think, and I think, might be the best pick. I don't know if he's the most talented or the one that has the biggest upside, I would say, but I do think that you go with the sure thing, and that's what they do here.
Okay.
Now, our second
Yeah, tell me
trade.
what I really care about.
I know, I know you're looking at this. Second trade, I think that the Bears trade with the 49ers. Now, the 49ers have the 12th pick. I don't think that the 49ers are so high on Mac Jones that they make him their starter or make him their quarterback that they're going to pick. That because the problem with the 49ers is that they need to pick a quarterback that is going to come in and compete with a guy that they're already paying $25 million a year for. The problem with that is if you don't think that Mac Jones is that guy that it's going to compete with a quarterback and maybe be better than him, then you're wasting a pick. Otherwise, you could maximize that pick by making a trade. Now, there are other needs too. I think they could address somewhat later on in the draft. So I think the Bears, who we've just watched them be desperate, they were already trying to get rid of Nick Foles. And what does it tell me that they're getting rid of Nick or trying to get rid of Nick Foles? It tells me that they are open to somebody becoming their QB2 and maybe even their future QB1. And I think that's the draft. I think that's where they're looking ultimately at the
Yep.
end of the day. So makes sense to me. The 49ers are able to trade down. They get the 20th pick. And actually, I think if you scroll up, you can see my trades. Yeah, so you can see the trades. So it's the 12th pick, which they select Mac Jones with. The 49ers get the 20th pick, the sixth round, the second to last sixth round pick, 221 for us. And because we have like 3 or 4 of them, and then they get a future second.
Do you think that's all it would take? Oh my God.
Yeah, because you're only moving up 8 spots.
A
You
lot
get
of
a future second
spots.
too. Huh?
That's a lot of spots.
Yeah, but like when I maybe it's more, maybe it takes a future second and a future fourth or something like that along with a sixth, or maybe the
Yeah.
sixth is a higher pick and maybe it's a fourth round pick and instead they get a future second and a fourth round pick this year. To me, sixth and a future second fit the most for only moving up 8 spots,
Yeah.
especially when all the quarterbacks are off the board. So if the deal doesn't make sense, like, I think it's one of those where the 49ers, all the quarterbacks off the board that have the highest potential. So then Mac Jones is sitting there with, I think Mac Jones is a really good quarterback. And I think he would be a great fit for the Bears because I think he's the most NFL ready quarterback now, or out of the bottom 3. I think Zach Wilson, obviously, and Trevor Lawrence, who are taking 1 and 2, are better than him at this very moment. But I think Mac Jones is the better quarterback, more ready quarterback than Justin Fields or Trey Lance, despite having a lower ceiling. So I think that he's a good fit for the Bears because I think he can come in. What he does really well is he reads defenses really well. He makes good decisions. That mitigates a lot of problems that you're going to have that you've been watching basically for 4 years with Mitch Trubisky, who can't read a defense well and who can't eliminate those decisions. So yeah, Mac Jones's arm strength's not going to blow you off he's not going to blow you away. His accuracy is not going to blow you away. His unbelievable playmaking is not going to blow you away. He doesn't have that. But what he does have is he can make something happen. He can run your offense very well, and he will not make those dumb mistakes that you see that quarterbacks do or fall into because he can read a defense and he can make smart decisions. And it's
I
right.
agree.
And I
Post
think
reading the
one of
tape.
the, huh?
Post reading the tape for so long, I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yeah. And I think one of the most interesting comps that I've seen for him to the NFL is honestly a Tom Brady. Yeah, do I think we're getting Tom Brady in this pick? No. But it makes it's to me it's the most comp wise sensible comparison because if you take away Brady's championships and just him being Brady. You look at Brady, he's a quarterback that doesn't have a spectacular arm strength. He makes a lot of great decisions with the ball. He reads defenses very well. He's not very athletic, but he can still make things happen. He was at least a little bit when he was younger. That's Mac Jones. So I think the trade makes sense. The Bears get a quarterback, hopefully for the future to build upon, or potentially even start over Andy Dalton at some point. And the 49ers get a couple picks and cash in on a pick that I think it's one of those where the 49ers, some of their needs were a little too, like they were already taken as far as quarterback and such. So it makes sense for them to trade down, accumulate more picks, and still be able to address this a need later on. So
I'm excited.
and then
Go for it.
kind of yeah, exactly. And then kind of a shocker here, and I don't think he's going to fall this far. I don't know where he'll go. It's just in my draft, the way that I drafted it, he falls this far, and the Chargers literally he falls in their lap, and they don't even know what to do with it. So, I mean, if he fell this far, I can tell you that the Chargers are sprinting to the podium to make this pick. Like it's unbelievably the perfect pick for them to get Penei Sewell to fall to 13 and then not have to trade up to make it happen. But it's just unfortunate. That's the way the cookie crumbled in my draft. It's just nobody ahead needed a left tackle that badly as opposed to the Chargers. I mean, yeah, you could argue, maybe the Giants, but the Giants needed edge rush desperately, so they got the best edge rusher. Like it's the way it went. Then you can talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe they trade up, but I think the Minnesota Vikings, I think ultimately they don't have enough to trade up, or they don't want to trade up, so they stay put. So that's just kind of how I felt. Penei Sewell, the best offensive tackle, and one of the other surefire, him and Kyle Pitts are the two guys I feel the most confident being superstars in the league. Those are the two and so getting the best tackle, a left tackle who could be, a Joe Thomas for your next 10 years is fantastic. And the Chargers are absolutely ecstatic to get him at 13, falling to protect their guy in Justin Herbert.
And who's this?
So Elijah Vera Tucker is the guy that I thought the Bears would take at 20 in my last mock. And the reason why is because he is a guard tackle hybrid where he can kind of play either position. So I thought for the Bears it would be great because he can kind of play either position, so they can kind of put him at either position. But here were the Vikings, they really need guard help or inside help. So they get Elijah Vera Tucker, who I think is the best inside offensive lineman in the draft. So that's who they just go with. It's fitting. It's a perfect need. They don't make a trade up to get Penei Sewell, so they get the next best thing that they can, which is inside help and for Elijah Vera Tucker.
Okay.
Now we go to the Patriots. The Patriots, I really took a while for me to figure out what they could potentially do. They need So yeah, they did. Okay, so here's where I'll start with this. They got Dante Hightower back. Yes, he is aging though, and when his contract expires, it's not like Bill Belichick's probably going to extend him. You also have Van Noy coming over. Van Noy does a lot in the edge as well, so he's more of an edge type guy, an outside linebacker. So then you bring in Roquan or not Roquan, Rayquan McMillan. Yeah, shut up. You bring over Rayquan Mcmillan, who's a talented linebacker, but if you're not 100% sure that he'll be able to fill in as the starting middle linebacker next to Dante Hightower or taking over for Dante Hightower, well, then what do? You go and draft the guy who won the best linebacker award in the league. Now, you might say, why did Micah Parsons not win it, who got drafted top 10? Well, Micah Parsons took off last year, so that's why he didn't play. So that's why he wasn't up for that award. But the next best linebacker who did win that award is Jeremiah here, who is a great coverage linebacker. So, which Dante Hightower isn't really. So, you would fit a perfect need right there at linebacker. And Bill Belichick loves his linebackers. So, I think this is perfect because I think this is the guy for the Patriots to meld into what they need him to be. And the Patriots are very known for like drafting not only needs, but drafting like certain players to pick to be certain things. And this is the kind of thing that they would do to get a cover linebacker.
And
Then we scroll down, we have the Cardinals picking JC Horn. JC Horn, I took ahead of Caleb Fairley. Caleb Fairley, I think, might might be the better corner, but JC Horn just had an incredible pro day that turned a lot of heads. He's 6 foot tall, so he fits the build for a number one corner, but he also ran like a 4.39 40, which is absurd. He also had an incredible vertical, an incredible broad jump. He has great length. He just is a very, very talented corner who very well could be a superstar in this league. And so I think the hype is too real, and I think that's who the Cardinals end up going for here. They need secondary help. I think, they addressed some help with JJ Watt and kind of their pass rush. I don't think that they go pass rush here. I think they go corner because that's what they need. So I think JC Horn fits the bill right there for 'em. Las Vegas Raiders, I think they need off. They just got rid of Trent Brown at right tackle. So I think what they do is they go and get the best right tackle in the draft, which is Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. Massive dude, super talented. He'll be a great right tackle for them on that side of the line for a long time. So I think that's a great signing for them, especially because it seems like they're going to make Derek Carr, they're going to make it work with Derek Carr, give him another offensive lineman to help protect him. And, you drafted Andy Ruggs last year. You're signing wide receivers. Give him right tackle to replace Trent Brown. And I think Tevin Jenkins does a great job for that. So then we move on to the Dolphins. Jalen Phillips, I think he's getting a lot of hype as one of the better pass rushers in the league. I think he has a high potential. At 6'5", 260, very, very much the build of an edge rusher that you like. I think the Dolphins at 18, who really need an edge rusher, this is a great pickup for them because I think they get a guy who has a lot of upside, who only falls to this position because I think that he has only recently gotten a lot of hype. So I think they just get lucky here with that.
Gotcha.
Next we go to the Washington, apparently.
I saw that.
I don't even know why that's the way it is, but the Washington football team, they need a tackle. They need offensive line help. They need to protect whatever quarterback, Heineke, Fitzgerald, whatever they're putting out there. They need a tackle, so they go and get Rashawn Slater, who I think is the next best tackle in the league or in this draft. And again, that helps to fill a needed offensive line. Then we got the 49ers. Caleb Farley, I talked about how he might be better than JC Horn, but I think JC Horn's hype is too real for Caleb Farley to overcome, so that's why he ends up here. But the 49ers, who just traded down from the Bears, need cornerback help. They get one of the top three corners in either Patrick Surtain, JC Horn, or Caleb Farley. Those top three corners are really good, and there's not a lot of difference between them. So getting Caleb Farley, who I think could even go 8 to the Cowboys if the Cowboys like him more, it's a great pickup for them at 20 because they're able to trade down, accumulate picks, and still fill a great need that they have. This one just made sense to me. Indianapolis Colts lost Anthony Costanzo at left tackle. They needed a starting left tackle. What do? They go and get the next best starting left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, 6'5", 300 pounds. He'll be a great left tackle moving forward in the future for them. And I think that allows them to keep Nelson at left guard and fills that need. And then they have a fantastic offensive line. And then I think in the second round, they draft a wide receiver, and that completes their whole build kind of for Carson Wentz.
Okay,
All right,
it.
Tennessee Titans have lost a bunch of corners. They lost to Dory Jackson. They lost Malcolm Butler because they cut him. They need a corner. Greg Newsome has a lot of hype going around him. He's a very, very talented corner, Big Ten Player of the Year. I think he could be the pick here. I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on Greg Newsome. I don't know if they feel confident in doing that at 22 here, but they do need corner desperately, and he's the next best corner off the board. So I think that's where they go. Now, a guy that in my last mock draft I had going pretty high. I think I had him going like top 12. Gregory Rousseau. It's funny because Jalen Phillips, his teammate, who just got drafted by the Dolphins at 18 in my mock, has a lot more hype around him than Gregory Rousseau, which is interesting because Gregory Rousseau is 6'6", like 250, and is 21 years old. So he's a super raw, lot of potential, great build for an edge rusher. So I think the Jets get lucky and get an edge rusher here that drops pretty far in the thing, but I think has top 10 potential. So that's just, they need edge rush. They get an edge rusher who has top 10 potential that drops this far. So they get lucky. Steelers desperately need offensive line help. They're running it back with Ben Roethlisberger and bringing Juju back. They need to boost that offensive line if they're going to be able to do anything with those two guys. I think they get the next best left tackle in the draft available in Samuel Cosme. He's 6'7", 300 pounds, very athletic tackle. I think that's just the next. I think that's just ultimately at the end of the day the best pick for them.
Gotcha.
All right, then we have Jacksonville Jaguars. They just drafted their quarterback of the future in Trevor Lawrence. They have their left tackle that we were talking about earlier, in Cam Robinson. So what do? They go and get the other tackle position solidified in Jalen Mayfield, who will play right tackle for them. He did play left tackle, but he also played right tackle in college. So I think they move him over to right tackle, and now you have Cam Robinson and Mayfield as your tackles moving forward for the next 5 years. With Trevor Lawrence stepping in is a great, it's great protection for Trevor Lawrence to step into.
Where's this other first round pick coming from?
Oh, this is the Rams trade. This is the Jalen Ramsey.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
26, the Cleveland Browns, they need an edge rusher to go alongside Myles Garrett. I think Aziz right here from Georgia, he's more of a speed edge rusher, so that works perfectly alongside of Myles Garrett, who's more of a power rusher. So I think that's just a great duo right there. I think they get, if Aziz ends up becoming what I think he could be for them, which is a 8 to 12 sack guy, he'll be a perfect foil to Myles Garrett on the other side. Baltimore needs a wide receiver desperately. I don't know if they feel confident enough to draft Rashad Bateman. I thought maybe they just go with they need a safety desperately. They go with Trevon Moehrig, who's the best safety available at TCU. He'll be a great safety in the NFL. One of those where both picks could happen here. I just think that they address safety position over wide receiver because I think that that's a desperate need of theirs. Whereas I think they're okay with maybe getting a wide receiver in the second round if they don't if they don't sign one in free agency moving forward. All right, so the Saints, they need a lot. They are going through a rebuild. I mean, Drew Brees is retired. That's it. We're not running it back. We have to get rid of our older players. We have to start cutting salaries. We're over the cap by a ridiculous amount. They need a player that is going to come in and play multiple positions very well. And Zaven Collins, who's one of the best linebackers in the league, or one of the best linebackers in college football, comes in. He can do a little bit of everything. He can edge rush. He can cover the pass with tight ends. He can run stop. He can be your middle linebacker. He can move out to edge rusher if he needs to. He is your kind of utility player who I think is a fantastic piece to put in to that defense as it starts to basically change to become a rebuild. And I think building around Zaven Collins as your centerpiece for that is a great pickup. And then I think the Packers, listen, do I think the Packers are finally going to give help to Aaron Rodgers? No, because they're the Packers. But I think in a perfect world, the Packers do end up getting a wide receiver here who I think could go higher I think he could go higher if there wasn't more important needs immediately for other players. So he gets lucky and falls to the Packers and gets Aaron Rodgers throwing to him. Rashad Bateman is 6'2". He's a great wide receiver. I think he's got a lot of potential. I would have liked to see him on the Bears if he had been the replacement for Allen Robinson. I think he would have been the best replacement. So at the end of the day, I think they get a great wide receiver to pair with Devontae Adams, and they finally get Aaron Rodgers some help. And the way you can argue this is you either get Aaron Rodgers help or you get a wide receiver that Jordan Love can throw to in 2 years. So listen, it works out either way, Packers fans. Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills don't have a ton of holes. I mean, that's what happens when you're a team that is one of the last four competing for a Super Bowl. I think they get Baron Browning here out of Ohio State. Does he go a little high here? Maybe. I don't think he's a first round talent, but what he does bring is he was very successful last year at Ohio State being an edge rusher, and they do need edge help. And I don't think there's a better edge rusher available. So I think you get a guy who can play middle linebacker, but can also play edge, and at least boost your pass rush a little bit. And, at the very least, you're getting a guy who will play well in your defense.
Huh.
Then we move to our final two picks, which I do feel like the last one might change. But the Kansas City Chiefs need a tackle. We talked about how they cut their two tackles for no reason except for to save money. Fine, I get it. It's down year in the cap. But what do? They replace it with Dylan Reduns out of North Dakota State. He's a guy that a lot of people are up on because yes, did he play at a lower division school and not one of the big five power conferences schools or whatever it may be, but he's a 6'7" mauler in the run game. And I think could develop, put a little bit more weight on. I think he's in like only 305 at 6'7", so he's pretty thin, but he'll put more weight on, put more muscle on. I think he can develop more in the pass rush, but I think he's a great left tackle to plug in for the next 4 years there for Patrick Mahomes because I think he's got a lot of upside and a lot of athletic ability to move around in that offense. Last but not least, Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't have a lot of holes. That's what happens when you win the Super Bowl and you bring everybody back and you have nobody leave. Um, I thought maybe they were going to let Ndamukong Suh walk to save a little bit of money, and that would then spark them to need a guy who was going to replace him in Christian Barmore, who I think would be the perfect replacement. I'm not so sure now. I don't know off the top of my head who I think would go there then. I'd have to look at their needs again and everything, but I mean, maybe they still go Christian Barmore at the end of the day, and that's why they're only signing Sue for 1 year is because they want to get somebody for the future. I don't know. It just to me, this is what made sense when Ndamukong Suh wasn't signing. I don't know if it still does, but if it still does, this is the best player for them. So this is where I have him going.
Okay.
And that is my mock 2.0. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we go, because we're about to head out, and I want this to be kind of a quicker topic because I don't want to speak too much on it because we don't know too much. But I just want to kind of highlight what's been happening. So we all know the Deshaun Watson thing's been going down. From what I gather, and I'm just going to go over it very briefly, and we're not going to go too in depth into it because again, we don't want to say anything because we don't want to favor one side. We don't know. Let justice take place. Hopefully, 16 total lawsuits, though, have been brought forward for sexual assault or inappropriate conduct against Deshaun Watson. 14 of them have happened in the Houston area. 2 of them have happened outside the Houston area. One of those 2 happened to be at his house. That was just what had been reported. There was one report that had come out from one of the lawsuits that basically just stated that the person involved said that she had been giving a massage to Deshaun Watson when he had asked her to basically push his hands down to his pubic area, to which he then apparently told her, I don't remember the exact quote, but apparently he said that I can make or break your job, essentially, or something along the lines of that, kind of threatening her position and her work, basically saying he could get her fired if she doesn't, and then suggested to have her perform oral sex. That's what she alleges. Obviously, nothing is set in stone yet. We don't know the details. We're just reading them out as I'm seeing on the articles and what's come out from her. Now, Watson's lawyer obviously is denying all of the allegations. That's, routine with a lawyer, your own lawyer. But he did come out against this particular person who alleged this incident in a massage room. He stated that the woman did contact him, blackmailing him basically for $30,000. That her manager, quote unquote manager, that's what he said, also blackmailed him and Watson for $30,000 as well, an additional 30,000, so 60,000 in total, in order for them to be silent about the issue. They also apparently, this lawyer alleges that the woman told him in the text that it was consensual, and she admitted to this. Whether or not that's true or not, it could be up for debate. We don't know the details. I'm just kind of laying them out as I've seen. That's everything that I know of right now. That's everything I believe the public is knowledgeable about. Whether there might be a few other details that have come around, not going to speak on who's right and who's wrong in the situation. Hopefully, justice works out in whatever way it's going to for whoever is the victim and whoever is actually the culprit here. But I also do want to encourage people to not immediately just shut this out as they're coming for him or something like that, because that's not what we're trying to do with this whole, the current movement that's gone into play. You can argue one way or another how you feel about it, but we do need to hear at least everyone out involved. And that's the way we should move forward with this information. So take it for a grain of salt. We don't know all the details, but that's at least what's been laid out moving forward.
Okay.
So,
all right, and we're probably going to call it there. I must go to sleep.
yeah, me too. So, but good. We got a lot of issues, talked about. We got our little bit of a therapy session with the Bears, and I said it last podcast, but I guess next podcast we look forward to whatever other stupid decisions the Bears are going to make, and we can talk about them next time on the Dylan and Dylan podcast. And so I am Dylan.
And I'm Dylan. Have a good night.
Well, good night, everybody.